Boom.
Kevin, where are you right now? It's a very different aesthetic in your background.
Yeah. No, I'm in Thailand.
Oh.
Yeah. I used to live here and I moved back, and I'm just going to be traveling all throughout Asia. Starting here, then going to Vietnam, then going to Bali.
What's going on with the bandana?
Like
you trying to cover up the hairline?
That's exactly it. It's a hairline hider.
Well, yeah. What's up, guys? We are live. We got the crew back together. It's awesome, and we got big things with this podcast coming up. So for this episode, there's actually a lot of exciting shit. So we're going to have Ayendei on in about 15 minutes. I think this is going to be a really epic debate between Erudite, who's like a little bit more on the blue pill side, and Ayendei, who's like hardcore red pillar. And then me and Kevin being somewhere in the middle, and I would say Princeo probably also being in the middle. But I think that's going to be very interesting. So I told him to come on in 15 minutes. But yeah, I figured we'd catch up on some Manosphere news. So today, fucking Sneeko got nuked from YouTube. Did you guys see that?
I did not see that.
Yeah, he completely got his channel deleted.
His main channel too, or just the one that?
Let me double check that, but I believe it's everything. He got deleted.
Yeah, I thought it was on TikTok too, right? It's on all platforms, right?
I don't know about TikTok. I wasn't following that, but let me try to see if I can find his channel.
Is it because he was hanging out with Andrew Tate, or is that just a coincidence?
Could be a coincidence, but yeah, he's completely gone. All his channels are gone on YouTube.
My God,
that's crazy.
All three?
All three, man. Yeah, from what I've seen.
I didn't watch too much of the content, but I didn't think he was saying anything that crazy. I thought it was like typical Manosphere stuff.
He did a lot of like COVID vaccine stuff. Yeah, he like treaded a lot into that territory. And then he did a stream about 9/11 being a conspiracy as well. And I think he got a strike for that one as well. So I think it's more of his conspiratorial stuff than his Manosphere stuff.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get taken off for that.
Yeah. But it's kind of scary. I always get scared whenever I see another content creator go down. Because it's like, am I next?
Really scary.
That's what's on my mind. By the way, I created a Rumble account and I'm uploading all my videos to Rumble. I think you guys should all do that as well, just to be on the safe side.
I think I'm going to do that too.
Yeah.
Is it just to like as like a backup, I guess?
Well, it's like a competitor to YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about it myself. I'm decently much more tame than you guys. So.
Oh yeah, you got that blue pill power. You know, we red pill.
Exactly.
This is a funny comment. John Anthony didn't like Sneeko's game, so he had him removed.
He sent him a cease and desist. Okay.
That's funny. So yeah, I thought that was like kind of pretty drastic stuff. All right, so what's the next thing? I wrote down a few things I think we should just discuss before the debate. Oh yeah, real quick. So you put out that video today, Kevin, with the receipts video. I'll be honest, I only watched a small part of it. But you know what? The part that I tuned into was when you were playing those voice memos with Coach Whitepill. And this is a direct quote from Coach Whitepill. You will win 99% of the time unless I do some dark magic.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Well, okay, so I'll tell you what he means, because this happened during the night in question, because he was saying, because I was always confused by it too. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And this is one scenario he said. He's like, oh, well, if we're all hanging out and then you're about to go get a drink, I'll ask you and be like, yo, can you get a drink for me too? And you'll say yes. And then you come back with the drinks, and then now you're my server. So now I'm higher status than you, and the girls will like be drawn to me because you just served me drinks. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely going to, that'll convert a girl who's not interested in you, and all of a sudden she's going to want to hop on your cock. So genius, Coach Whitepill. But that's the type of dark magic he's talking about. That most definitely works.
Yeah, I mean, I think he kind of debunked all his talking points with that one quote.
Yeah.
Like, Kevin has no...
His whole thing is like, Kevin Ray Wilder has no receipts. Like, it's like, okay, bro. I have receipts of him talking about as if I'm like a demigod.
He directly says, yeah, he paints you out to be some like larger than life figure. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, but yeah, so he's like, Kevin will win 99% of the time unless I do some dark magic. I mean, that's just like a direct quote. I don't know. Such a weird quote.
That's pretty black pilled from, Mr. Whitepill.
Right? Because I don't feel like a guy, okay, so put me in a room with a Giga Chad. I don't feel like he's going to win 99% of the time unless his game is like better than mine. If you put me in a
dude,
room,
I'm also just objectively not a Giga Chad too. Does a Giga Chad have a fucking
no? You're definitely not a Giga
receding
Chad
hairline like this. I don't think so, bro. Like, I mean, I'm flattered, but come on.
But one thing I've seen with a lot of like natural Chads, I have a lot of friends who are like 6'5", 6'4" that like Chads, but they actually don't have much game because they've been so used to girls coming at them and pursuing them. So it's like a lot of times it comes down to, I'm more on the game side. It comes down to game rather than honestly your height, all the SMV stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of like really good looking guys, they've been getting so much external validation so often that they have a huge ego tied around it. So a lot of the guys that you'll see, I'm sure you guys have experienced this too. A lot of the guys with the worst anxiety are like good looking dudes because they have such an ego tied to being like the cool guy, right? So they don't even want to go out there and put themselves out there to get rejected. Very common. I have some friends that I went to high school with. Like one of them is a male model now, and one, he doesn't do that great with girls, but it's because he has his anxiety like get the best of him, you know. So it's very common.
I completely
people don't talk about it.
Yeah, no, there's such a black pill belief because again, like I would consider myself like a 6 maybe, right? We Waffles thinks I'm a 5. I think I'm a 6 or 6.5, but okay, whatever. If let's take a guy who's a male model who's like a 10, unless his game is equal to or better than mine, I don't feel like he's going to win 99% of the time. I would say that if his game is just like average, it would probably be like a 50-50, even maybe 60-40 towards me. Like, sure, there's of course going to be some girls that will go for the guy with worse game with better looks, but it's not going to be 99-1. There's zero fucking chance. That's a very much a black pill position.
Yeah. And another way how most people learn game is I feel like when you get rejected, you kind of start learning how to maneuver and raise their interest. So like I found out a lot of people who have game are more like uglier, shorter guys that versus the taller guys. So that's how you really learn the game.
Yeah.
I like that comment. Can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm glad Kevin is on today. No joke. I know his presence is urging John right now. Yeah,
could you guys, for the viewers, explain, since I have so many more blue pill viewers, can you explain what the different pills are and their like central idea?
Sure.
Do you want me to do that? Because I talk about it on my channel.
I think you're probably better. You'll probably explain better.
So there's the idea of what the red pill should be and then what it actually is in actuality. So the sort of de facto leader of the red pill is somebody named Rollo Tomassi, who's the author of The Rational Male. The entire idea behind the red pill is to observe female behaviors, kind of revealing the truth about female behavior. And the only way that you can really do that is to be very scientific, right? So whatever evidence is shown to you, whether it be, evolutionary psychology. I know you're not a big fan of evolutionary psychology, Kyla, but, the red pill space is. But,
I love it.
Yeah. But the idea of the red pill is that, Rollo Tomassi at the end of his book, he says, well, nothing in the red pill is written in pen, it's written in pencil. So we should be having discussions and constantly building on our ideas and stuff. Unfortunately, in actuality, that doesn't actually occur. It's kind of just an echo chamber, right? So there's certain things within the red pill space that, if you ever question it, you're completely ostracized from the community. So if you question hypergamy, you question female solipsism, you question the gynocentric social order, right? There's a few other pillars to that too, but if you deny or question any of those, you're kind of ostracized from the community. And what's very interesting is the red pill community kind of it's kind of tangentially related to PUA in the sense of they say like, okay, well, you need to have game in order to attract women, right? Because women are entitled and whatever. And so from that, the black pill kind of came out as kind of a response to say, hey, well, this is BS to be like, oh, well, if you just improve your status and your money and your game, then all the girls are going to, like you. So the black pill says instead, okay, well, looks are the most important. And some people take it so far as to say that it's the only thing that's important, to the point where if you aren't a certain level of looks, a certain level of height, it's over for you and that you should just give up. So those are the two main pill factions, I should say. There's some little other factions here and there, like MGTOW, which is men going their own way, basically saying, oh, well, there's the gynocentric social order is so unfair for men that you just want to check out of the dating market. They're probably more related to the black pill, if anything. The way I like to view it, though, I like to keep it very simple. Just going off of the Matrix movie, I like to look at the red pill as a descriptive claim about reality, right? So saying like, okay, this is just this is what is, right? And then I look at the black pill as sort of a prescriptive claim of what one ought to do given a red pill reality. So I think that
can I sum this up in like a more quick matter?
Yeah, I was hoping for like 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, man.
We got the history now,
like
so it's
good.
It was just a matter of time before you were about to bring up niche.
No, it's fine. It's probably boring the audience. Okay, go ahead.
No, okay. It's like this. Bluepill believes in like the whole fairy tale type of thing that, you know, if you're just like the best version of yourself, you'll meet a girl who's right for you, regardless of her circumstance in life. There's the right girl out there for you, and you will meet her. Pickup community believes that you have to take proactive action, but game is really the main thing that matters. Red pill community is a little bit different. They think that actually, yes, game matters, but it's also things like your looks, money, status, and one of the most important things you can do as a guy is focus on yourself, level up your circumstances in life, and the girls will come to you. And game plays a component. The black pill community thinks all that is nonsense. Game doesn't exist, and the only thing that matters is really your looks and potentially your money. Everything else is irrelevant.
And then you have blue pill and purple pill.
Well, I covered blue pill. I don't know what the
purple pill is just supposed to
combination.
Yeah, it's supposed to be red pill, but you want a relationship.
Yeah, it's kind of like
a long-term relationship.
Yeah, for a long-term relationship.
Okay.
Not necessarily. It's more so like you take red pill truths when it's convenient for you, and then you take blue pill truths when it's convenient for you. That's kind of the idea. It's usually more so an insult that red pillers will say to be like, "Oh, you're not fully red pilled," you know.
So people are saying, what about white pill? Well, white pill is something that Coach White Pill like literally made up. So, I mean, as far as I understand his position on that was it's like recognizing the realities of the black pill, but having an optimistic view on it and making the best of your circumstance. But that to me kind of sounds like red pill in a way. So I don't really
it's more just an optimistic view on whatever red pill reality is given to you. So I actually have a video on my channel. It's called Rethinking the Red Pill, where I put it on like a Cartesian coordinates on the what is it? The XY axis is red versus blue pill, and then the Y axis, and then the X axis is black pill versus white pill. So
honestly,
Steven and I come up with like a new pill name for our worldview. Like should we be like omni-pilled or something like that?
Based pilled.
Fire pilled.
Why fire?
Honestly, I think all this.
I kind of like that. I thought it was fine.
Super. I think all the pill stuff is super cringe. I don't think you should identify with any like ideology. I just think you should speak what makes sense to you and not focus on like all these labels and ideologies. I find that shit like super cringe.
Yeah, but if we get a label, we can make merch out of it. You know, if we make omni-pilled, then I can make an omni-pilled.
Fire pill. Take the fire pill.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all the pills though and pickup and anything all have the same premise. I know for pickup and red pill, it's always technically be the best version of yourself, raise yourself up, become more attractive. I think that's basically what most of them are still saying at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's different in practice though. Yeah. Because like they'll say that, they'll be like, oh, we're all about self-improvement. Then you look at a red pill channel and it's just like, you won't believe what this woman did. This man was married to her for 10 years and secretly all of their kids are the neighbors because the neighbor would come over and bang her every time her husband would go to work. Like, it's just like, it's fucking crazy.
This is actually a true story. This is actually a true story, by the way, on a slightly different note. Yes, John did ask me to introduce him to Coach Kyle. I started a group chat. In that group chat, he asked Coach Kyle his leg count. It was like 100 something. And then John decided to make a video about that, literally exposing that screenshot and potentially completely destroying my friendship with Coach Kyle. So yeah, just want to point out that irony. Okay, keep going.
No, I was done with saying what I was saying.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Allende debate, honestly. Did you guys watch my debate with Scribe, my part 2?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It was almost as funny as the first one. Dude, it's so funny how the black pillars thought that it's like, oh, Scribe W. Like, the Scribe's actually, he might be the worst debater I've ever seen. Like, he's that bad.
He's pretty bad. Pretty bad. I think he's the worst that you've brought on so far.
He is. I don't know if he's the worst, but he's in the top 10. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny. He just like copes around being like, oh, it's because I destroyed you guys. Like, you guys kicked me off the street because you were getting destroyed. Like, dude, we were doing you a favor, bro. Like, we kicked you off the stream because you were being repetitive and annoying. Doesn't mean that you won the debate.
There were so many funny things about the debate. Like initially, how he kept saying them pushy, and because like I asked after the girl told me she had a boyfriend, I made like ask her one more time or something like that. Notice in the end of that podcast, he kept trying to get me to go on his show, and I said no, and he like kept bringing it up 10 times. Well, why would you go? Come on, I'm like, dude, just take no for an answer. Like, dude, it's kind of getting weird, man. I already told you no like 10 times. I'm not gonna go on this shitty fucking channel. Well, why not, man? I don't understand. I was like, it's so ironic. You're calling me for being pushy when you're literally like can't fucking take no for an answer. Or like that part during the first debate where he's like saying, "Oh, you know, you pickup bars, you guys, you guys are predators." And then he's like, "Yeah, if I sense the girl is a slut, I will take advantage of her." Like what?
That's a little yikesy.
You remember that quote, Kyla?
I do. Yep.
Yeah.
So what are we fighting about today?
I don't know. I think we're gonna have to see, I guess, how the convo unfolds. But we can kind of like explore. Allende has some like hardcore red pill positions that I personally kind of disagree with, but I think you're going to disagree with them even more.
Cool.
We'll have to kind of explore his positions. Yeah, Allende is to give you some context. Allende is the guy who used to work for Fresh and Fit. He was the one that came up with that whole concept of bringing girls on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
It looks like.
It looks.
Does he agree? Ayendei, is that true? You used to work for Fresh and Fit?
I'm not.
Wait, is Ayendei here?
No,
this is Princeo.
Oh, this is Princeo. Sorry. Okay.
It's somebody different.
Different black
Okay.
Kyla.
First of all, I've never met Ayendei. I don't even know if he's black.
I know they look all the same to you blue pillars.
You said that I was debating a strong red pill, and Princeo is the new face to the platform right now. So I assume that was who I was debating.
Princeo, you should have just read with him and been like, yeah, I'm Ayendei.
No, they're totally different. Princeo is a dating coach. Allende is like a red pillar fitness guy.
I'm like 50-50
Okay.
the red pill. One of the biggest thing I don't agree with red pill. I don't like how they always say you peak when you're like 35, 40, right? That might be true, but as I've seen in my dating life, as you get older, you get less access, and most of the girls kind of end up having kids, and then you end up like once you get a little older, you don't even want to talk to those 21, 22-year-olds. Like you're just on different levels. So that's why I don't fully agree with that person. Well, I think you're better off trying to find a LTR when you're like 28, 29 versus wait and see like 35, 40. That's one of my biggest disagreements.
LTR being a long-term relationship?
Yeah, long-term relationship, if that's what you're looking for. I mean, I feel like that's what most guys end up doing no matter what they say.
But
I mean, everyone is looking for long-term. Like most people cope about it, but most people are just looking for long-term eventually.
Exactly. But at the very least, I can vouch for the fact that Allende gets girls because I met his girlfriend. Oddly enough, her girlfriend is also Latina and also named Natalia. That's a weird coincidence. Wow. We let the Natalias hang out with each other. They seem to like each other. But yeah, I met his girlfriend. She's cute. Yeah, that guy pulls. But yeah, he has some interesting beliefs.
So
yeah, I mean, he's
Prince,
the one that got all the girls on the show.
Are you joining as a regular, or are you just guesting today?
We'll see. We will see.
It's an audition. We'll see how Prince does. Okay.
Honestly,
it's your tryout.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on live stream with Alex every week.
Yeah, no, Prince is on the channel a lot for the speed dates. I think you're probably the fan favorite when it comes to the speed dates as of now, Prince.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I feel like you're the fan favorite at this point in time. Although you got some stiff competition though. There's some other people in the background. We had Kyla run her lesbian game the other day. That was pretty impressive. You know, there's competitors. Let's put it that way.
Isn't Boris? I think Boris is pretty good too, though, right? From what I've seen, there's a couple guys.
Yeah, but then he tried to go on a speed date with my girlfriend, so he got deranked by like 5 points. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Boris is decent. He's done really well, and he's also gotten destroyed in certain situations. His game is kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Princeo is the most consistent at performing well in speed dates. Yeah, I would agree with that. But Boris,
so you're a chameleon. You're a chameleon then, so you can kind of like appeal to different, like a broader range of women.
Yeah, you kind of learn when you've done hell of approaches in field.
Yeah.
Well, me and Princeo
won the. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, me and Princeo were on this Black Pill dating show on Caduceus's channel, and Princeo took first place. I took second. We were runner-ups for the final spot.
Tell them the reason though. Tell them the BS reason she said though.
The reason she asked, because I asked her, because I actually honestly like don't take this the wrong way, but I thought I was going to get that W, in all honesty, for some reason. I don't know, maybe I'm just a little overconfident, but she said that because she thought I picked money. So basically before the show, you could pick love or money. And if you pick money, you get like 40% of the super chats, like $5, whichever it comes out to. And then if you pick love, you get to like connect with a girl. So she thought probably because I have a big nose, it means I'm Jewish. That means I'm going to pick money. So there was a little bit of racial discrimination going on. I'm just going to say it. Okay.
Damn.
No, I'm just kidding. I just
she heard your girlfriend starving in the background, being like, "I just want lunch, Alex."
This is the real Ayendei.
They thought I was you, man.
There's a little bit of echo on your end, Ayendei.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, but it's kind of quiet and there's a lot of echo.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They said BBC appears.
Tyrone has appeared.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think you're using your webcam mic.
Yeah.
No, I'm using the Yeti. Hold on.
Yeah, make sure you have so it's not doing like the loop back thing. I think that's what's happening.
You hear me better now?
No.
You don't?
No.
Do you hear me at all?
Barely.
Yes, it's just very quiet.
Barely.
And there's
And
massive
we've got that echo.
All right, hold on. Give me 1 second. Go ahead, guys.
Sometimes StreamYards will reset, like what you preset coming into the room. So I always have to set my Yeti twice.
Oh damn, John attacked Allende as well, apparently. Damn, he's just going after everyone.
What happened?
No, nothing. I'll tell you once you get your audio fixed. But yeah, the echo is like really crazy and the chat can't hear you.
Really?
Yeah. Do you want to try logging in, logging out?
I use the pods instead.
Yeah, let's try that. We're going to temporarily mute Ayendei because the echo is killing me.
They said BBC versus BWC debate.
Oh, that's like an inside joke. Oh wait, now we still have echo. Let me mute Ayendei again. Yeah, it's like an inside joke. There's this one dude in my chat who kept saying, "Hey Alex, can you finally address the BBC versus BWC thing in East Asia?" I was like, okay, first of all, I don't have a big black cock, so I know nothing about that. Second of all, I've never been to Asia. And third of all, what the actual fuck?
This was like a long time ago, right? I think I remember that. That was like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
The obsession with BCs, man.
Well, I remember there's one guy in Alex's chat that was just obsessed with like dick size.
Yeah.
Some guys
Really
say
funny.
downtown Boston.
Ayendei, how's the audio? Say something?
Yeah. You got me good?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, now we're good.
Much better. Much better.
Okay.
But yeah, welcome to the show, Ayendei. I'm sure you know most of the people on here, right?
Yeah, what's going on, Kev? I never met Prince, and I haven't met this young lady either.
Kyla.
You just call me Kyla.
What's up, man?
Cool.
Princeo.
What's going on? What are we talking about?
Well, we thought it would be fun to have you and kind of because you and Erudite is more on the Bluepill side. You're like pretty hardcore Redpill. So we thought it would be interesting to kind of have you guys like, I don't know, open up a discussion between you guys. I don't know where we should start though. Ayendei, what's like a common red pill position that you really believe in?
I wouldn't consider myself red pill.
No?
No, I've always just been comfortable with the truth. Before you guys are giving it a name or a term or whatever, the truth is just the truth. It is what it is.
Okay, what are some of the big things you believe when it comes to dating?
I don't think I have any, overly definitive stance on anything, to be honest with you. I'm just extremely practical and realistic. So, I mean, you'd have to give me something that's supposedly contentious.
Like, do you think that there's any variability? Like, so a lot of red pillars will say like, oh, well, this is what female nature is. So do you have any sort of hard stance on like what female nature is?
I mean, I think it's on a spectrum like most things. I think there are some behaviors that obviously are indicative of women and they're going to lean towards. Most of it is probably subconscious, so they might not agree with you. But yeah, there are a lot of things that would fall into what we call female nature. Although I do think men can exhibit similar characteristics as well.
What do you think some of those things are?
Okay, well, let's see. As far as who's going to be the aggressor, who's going to be pursuing, majority of the time, I guess that would be the guy, but there are circumstances where it could be the woman that could be the one that's approaching, or the one that's aggressive or has the agenda. So, I mean, majority of the time, yeah, I guess that would be the guy. But guys nowadays, I think, are a hell of a lot more passive than the women are. I think the women are the ones that are a little bit more, I think, direct these days.
Maybe we should do it like this. Kyla, what are some big things that you disagree with the Red Pill community on? Then we can see if one of those are things that Allende also agrees or disagrees with.
Well, I mean, he's using good language here, like predilection and stuff like that, or like a leaning. Like women tend to lean in one direction, which I think is like broadly decently true. Major things, probably 304 fatherless behavior type stuff is going to be the main stuff where I'm going to differ, especially dating strategies aimed at basically like certain. So the biggest issue I have with Red Pill is that they're going to give you certain dating strategies that I think are really good for getting you in the door, but are not as great at getting you in like long-term relationships, and oftentimes facilitate relationships with these women who you would call like a 304 or who are showing fatherless behavior. So like when I was talking with Fresh and Fit, my biggest concern is that they fundamentally give men strategies for how to pursue women who are typically more 304s and what they would define as 304s, and maintain relationships with those women, not to pursue like higher quality women or women who are more willing to invest.
So all right, well, hold real quick. I'm gonna need her to give a better example. I mean, I personally know both of those guys, so I would hate to discuss any of their ideology because it's all bullshit, and I know that firsthand. You're talking about two guys giving inadequate advice about relationships. Neither guy has relationship experience. One self-admitted, and the other one has just a long stream of flings that literally last 24 to 48 hours. These are extremely poor examples of guys representing, Red Pill advice. So I would like for you to give, I don't know, another example of somebody giving dating advice that we could critique.
Man, it's going to be hard to find disagreements then potentially. Because the reality is that like I'm definitely not a blue pilled person either.
My girlfriend just texted me a few things. My natty.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I kind of actually disagree with you on that because I've seen like the whole community transform. So I used to be more into pickup, right? And I would see that you get the game, you can have all these conversations, spark emotion, get hookups, but that actually doesn't help you more towards when you're doing a long-term relationship. When you get in a long-term relationship, actually knowing hypergamy, knowing that women date up, being that top guy actually does help you because she needs to always be constantly chasing. She needs to know you're always working on yourself. And also like sometimes when it comes to long-term relationship, I don't think you should always be telling your girl everything, opening up. That's some stuff that you kind of learn from the Red Pill. So that's why I say I kind of disagree with you on that stance.
But who are you disagreeing with?
Oh, not so. Was it Natty?
No, Kyla. I'm Kyla. Or Erudite, or Arrow, whatever works.
I think it's important to determine what is a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm. So
what length of time are we talking here?
So I'm talking about, let's say 6 months to 1 year. That's usually that's what most guys are younger. So we can say about that. Most guys who watch this content are younger.
That's absolutely not long-term whatsoever. I've been celibate for over 6 months. That's not long-term. Natty, what would you consider a long-term relationship?
Kyla. Natty's my
Kyla.
Sorry.
Yeah, Natty's Alex's girlfriend. No, you're good. I just didn't.
Kyla.
No. A long-term relationship. I'd probably set it at a minimum of 1 year, but I would argue that a long-term relationship is a long-term relationship where both partners haven't set a definite endpoint. Like they're pursuing it theoretically for life, but we realize a lot of these fall apart. But they're both of the mindset of like, barring some major change, this should be for forever, essentially.
So we're basically talking about continuity. Some type of change taking place, but the two people involved staying the same.
You can say that. Yeah, we can say that. Well, okay. She was originally talking about hookups and 3 or 4s. That's why I said long-term is 6 months and more.
Well, let me ask her this. Let me ask her this, because you started off by basically saying that you felt that the advice wasn't good for transitioning into long-term relationships. But I would have to ask, who said they were asking for that advice? Because guys certainly don't tune into Fresh and Fit for that type of advice. These are young guys that are just trying to get laid. These absolutely aren't guys looking to court women for marriage or long-term relationships whatsoever. So maybe that advice is not desired in that area.
Yeah, so I think
that's actually a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think young men and young women are both being sold like a lie, essentially, where both of them are being sold that like casual hookup culture is based, it's super fun, and it's what you should pursue when you're young. But most people leave that culture by like 24, 25, unsatisfied, unhappy, bored of it, and a little bit more broken than when they entered. I think a lot of men think that they're pursuing sex because we've told young men that sex equals status. And for a lot of young men, sex also equals intimacy. And that seems to be the main way that they know how to achieve it. I think most young men, if they were actually like pushed to stop coping, would be honest that like a longer term relationship is something that they would be open to. They want to find, like, they wouldn't be like, I want to find my honey boo boo, because they would cope about it. But I think if most men, if I was like, what if I found you a girl who was ideal? You guys got along super well. Sex was also great. Would you want to keep her around? Most guys would be like, yes, obviously. So I think a lot of times when guys are looking for this hookup advice, I think it's feeding into this cycle that of shallow, empty relationships that isn't satisfying anyone's needs.
So I think you're putting a female lens on that.
Yeah, that's
go ahead. Go ahead, Prince. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because you are putting a female lens. If you're a guy and you're going out approaching girls, you can't go out with the mindset like, hey, every girl I'm going to meet is in a long-term relationship. Because a lot of women, they want guys who are able to get quick hookups. They want guys who get a lot of girls. So when it comes to actual long-term relationship, you have to be able to have that ability. And to even keep her, she has to know to a certain extent that, yo, you're a top guy, she won, and you can go out and get another girl. So that's why I'm saying, like, come on with that aspect of when you meet a girl thinking, hey, I want a long-term relationship with this girl is a horrible idea, I think.
I'm not saying that as a prescription of how you approach dating. What I'm saying is that most guys are approaching dating saying, I want just a hookup, because they're trying, they're manifesting essentially. They're searching out hookups because that's what they've been told will give them status and make them happy. And the reality is that for most men, it doesn't seem to give them much for status, and it doesn't make them very happy.
I would have to say you're being a little presumptuous, if I would say. I really think that you are making the assumption that you understand what men are thinking and the rationale that's going through their head when they see a beautiful woman and they are considering approaching. And if I would say so, in my 40 years, I think you are extremely far off the mark. Guys are not like just pursuing, pointless hookups or just pursuing casual sex or anything like that. It's a very impulsive process that's happening. You see an attractive woman, you want to be around her, you want to be able to interact with her, you want to be able to basically have your requests met, whatever they might be. You want to touch her, you want to hug her, you want to kiss her, you want to take her home, you want to have a good time, you want to hang out, you want to do all of the above. But the motivation, the drive is going to be linked a lot to sexual desire. That's just the way that is. Now, if that woman is good company, she's pleasant to be around, she's fun, all these other type of things, yes, you find yourself gradually getting into a relationship in the sense of you're relating to one another, you're spending time. All of this commitment, long-term stuff, all that kind of shit, a lot of it's not premeditated for guys, and it shouldn't be. That's just not how we operate. That's not how our mind works when it comes to relationship. Now, the guys who do think like that, they tend to overwhelmingly be guys that are lacking in some other area. Therefore, they have this like attachment type issue going on. So they're like, yeah, I just want a relationship. I just want a girl to stay. Okay, no relationship experience, never been in a relationship, don't even know what it is you're extracting from that arrangement. You just know that you're lonely and you want somebody to be there. That's not the same as a guy that's gone out. He's had success with women. He's learning. He's interacting with them. He's knowing how to be fun, how to have a good time. He's knowing how to please them sexually. He's doing all of these, things that are part of his development with the opposite sex. And then he might come to a time in his life where he says, you know what? I know how these relationships turn out. I know what parts and what aspects of the relationships I value. And now I'm at a place where I do want to build with someone. I do want to kind of concentrate with one girl and then have that continuity and make some type of progress with one person. But because I've already experienced the casual stuff, therefore it's not a distraction to me. The guys who haven't experienced neither and tell you, yeah, okay, I just want to be in a relationship, I just want somebody, that's bullshit. Those are guys who don't know any better, and they're basically assuming that this is what it's gonna be like. I just want a girlfriend of my own. So I don't think that you kind of have your finger on the pulse of what motivates men when it comes to relationships or just the casual sex.
I think you're misunderstanding me fundamentally. I would agree with you that what motivates men for pursuing women, especially young men, is sex. And damn, she hot, right? Got some big old titties, nice ass. That is what men are thinking about. It is very passive, impulsive and kind of more like basic and simple, right? This is why if you watch Jubilee clips, for example, you can always pick which girl's going to win because it's going to be the hottest chick. Like, it's super simple. What I'm arguing is that men are pursuing this, and it's a pretty simple fundamental thing. The issue is that we're selling young men that casual hookups and dating, like casual dating, is what's going to satisfy them. And what I'm telling you is it doesn't satisfy them. It makes them unhappy. That is what they're pursuing. That is also what they're saying they're pursuing.
But nobody's selling them that. I think what you're confusing is the fact that they're selling young girls that. Are they selling women the casual sex thing? Absolutely. They're not selling young men anything. They don't even care enough to sell young men anything. They're selling young men video games. And only
I'm going to look up the lyrics to the top 10 raps, and I'm going to guarantee you most of those raps, which are aimed for young men, are about booty, bitches, and slang. Like,
exactly.
You are selling young men this message.
Let's get to that, because I think that's part of your misinterpretation. Again, you're putting a very female lens on it. So what comes first, the lyrics or the mindset of young guys? So there's a difference between selling someone something and giving someone something they can relate to. I'm here to tell you, as someone who's been a young guy before, I've been 13, 14, 15, and I've been everything in between that and 40. I assure you, no one has to sell sexuality to young boys. Nobody has to sell wanting hookups with females to young guys. No one has to sell it. We can be in a Catholic church. We can be somewhere where everything's censored and you see no nipples, no nudity, no nothing. And young boys will still very much be obsessed with trying to get inside of women. So I have to correct you there. I have to correct you there. Nobody's selling it to them. All they're doing is supplying the market with what it already wants. That's what young guys are thinking about. So yeah, music about it would appeal to them. Putting hot girls in video games would appeal to them. Putting hot girls on sports cars or whatever else they sell hot girls with. It's not because they've tricked men into responding to hot girls. It's that we're programmed biologically to already respond to hot girls.
And then I'll say one thing too, though. So when guys actually end up getting a bunch of hookups, they probably get like 3 or 4 hookups, and then they'll finally get one girl and settle down. Once a guy starts getting a few hookups, it's not like they stay long term in these hookup phases. Like, young women will stay in these hookup phases for a long time versus guys.
Sure. So why do we think guys, after being in the casual hookup status for a while, eventually are like, yeah, it's actually better to have a woman who like invests in me, I enjoy being around, and like essentially wants to settle down a little bit more? Why does that happen?
Because nobody sold them anything. It's just they needed the experience.
Exactly.
That's all. They just needed the experience.
I don't know why you're not answering my question.
I just did. You said, why is it that a guy can come to that after?
And you said because nobody sold them anything. My question had nothing to do with that. I said, what do you think is happening? What's happening? Hold on. I just want to pause you. So a lot of what's happened in this debate is you keep kind of presuming what I'm saying rather than responding to what I'm actually saying. Probably in part because of how I look in many ways, you're probably going to assume like certain assumptions that I have about the world that may or may not be true.
I can't even see you, but I'm responding to what it is that you're saying. It might not be what you mean, but it's what you're saying.
The issue is you're not responding to what I'm saying. You're oftentimes being presumptive.
What are you saying? Okay, what are you saying?
So what I asked you was actually a good faith question. I was asking you, what do you think happens between young men when they go from the casual phase to the settle down phase? And your response was to already predict what trap I was potentially going to put you in to respond by whether or not trying to sell you anything.
You're wrong.
I wasn't
again.
I didn't
think it was a trap. I thought you were asking a genuine question, and I did give you a genuine answer. I said.
Why was your answer then to go back onto the selling point, which is the point that you thought I was saying before?
It doesn't matter. The answer was still in there. I don't know how you missed that. I said nobody sold them anything. They just finally got the experience that they needed, and now that's what they want in their life because they know what that is. A guy can't just jump into it and say, yeah, I want a relationship, I want a girlfriend. We don't know what that is until we've done it. That's why we have that training wheel process where early teens, young teenagers have that boyfriend, girlfriend type of situation. And you start learning what that is, what it entails. and you know
Sure.
whether or not you want that long term. So there's plenty of girls that you might think you want to be around them, and you hook up with them a couple of times, and then you're like, I really don't actually like this person. Maybe I enjoy having sex with her, but not more than I would with another girl that's also attractive. So her as an individual, there's really nothing special about her, not the girlfriend. You see what I mean? But you would have to have had a few casual encounters before you know what it is that you would actually even want or like or appreciate in a girlfriend.
Okay, so would you agree, for example, that the number of body count men have is somewhat tied to their status? For example, male virgins are very much dismissed. They're treated as like lesser and they're kind of laughed at. Whereas a guy who maybe has over 10, 20, 30, obviously would be respected more by their male peers, at least. Would you agree with that?
Well, once you get above 1,500, it just goes downhill.
I don't even know why you would count past 100, to be honest, but fair enough.
Now, this is something that I detect with the things that you say, and I don't want you to get offended because I'm in no way trying to offend you. I'm just being what I am, very frank. I think a lot of times when you say certain things, I get the impression, again, hey, I could be wrong. I get the impression that you confuse like cause and reaction, or for example, like what you just said. You said that having a high body count for a guy has some resemblance to your status, but I think that you're missing what comes first. Going out there and increasing your body count as a guy is not what gives you status. It's the fact that you had status while you were able to have a high body count. It's like, what's coming first here? The horse or the carriage, the chicken or the egg? So there's several things that you've said already where it's like, which one is the cause of which? So for you to say, oh, society's selling it to the young guys because of the lyrics and the music and things like that. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, are guys pursuing women in the way they do because of lyrics, or are the lyrics because that's the way the guys pursue girls? Because let me give you an example of what I'm trying to say. Let's say you're a nobody kind of guy. You're not really that popular, famous, whatever, but you like rapping. You like, and making beats. Next thing you know, you got a hit song. It's doing well. You're getting tons of views, talks of a record deal coming. Now you're on. Now you're somebody. You know what that guy's going to do? He's going to sleep with a lot of hot chicks now. He's going to take advantage of this rise in popularity that he has. So, of course, he's going to want to make music about it. But he probably was already rapping about it before he was even doing it. You know why? Because that's where his desire was. But now that he's got some popularity, he has some followers, he has a blue check, now he could take advantage of that popularity and that clout to actually do what he already wanted to do. So it's the same thing with the status thing, the connection that you're making. A guy that's good in things, has some type of talent, has some type of dominance in the area, is going to establish some status. And because of that status, he's going to have access to some women. Whatever the groupies are for whatever he does, he's going to have access to those women. So it's not the women that gave him the status. It was the status that gave him the women, to answer your question.
Okay, I'm going to do a group poll instead because I don't really know what's happening. Let's create a hypothetical world. I've waved a wand. There are two identical twins. One is a virgin. Mm-hmm. One has slept with 40 women. Who do the men respect more? Kevin, who do the men respect more? Virgin, 40 women.
40 women.
Not that black and white,
okay.
though.
Alex,
yeah,
who do you respect
really
more?
Not that black and white, because there's 40
well, it also depends
just
on
respond,
why
hold on. Okay. Just respond to the hypothetical first. So here's how hypotheticals work. Because I'm super enmeshed in debate bro world, and a lot of people don't sometimes realize the purpose of a hypothetical, which isn't me condescending to you, by the way. It's me being like, maybe you're not understanding what I'm trying to do here. Hypotheticals are just to test our ideological extents, essentially. Yeah. So I'm just creating a bubble. This world doesn't exist. Just a bubble. There are two men. All you know about them is that they're identical in looks and charisma, every other skill. One has 0 fucks, one has 40.
Assuming
who do we respect more? Everything else is the same. Everything else is the same.
Is it 40?
Assuming all other factors being equal, definitely the 40 leg count guy.
Sure.
Well, also really quickly too, it depends on, is it with equal effort? Because like, what if one is a virgin?
Doesn't matter. You're in the hypothetical. Doesn't matter. 0 and 40. Who do you respect more?
You're not giving enough context to this.
You can change the hype. So here's the thing. You can change the hypothetical after you respond. Just for now, grant me the hypothetical, and then you could give me a new hypothetical that you think maybe maps on better to reality. But all I'm trying to show right now is that in general, as a heuristic, we would respect a guy who has 40 as a body count over 0. This is just obviously true in my worldview. Now, there's all sorts of context that goes behind that. But in general, if You're a guy. Who do you respect more? 0 or 40?
I answered.
Yeah, Alex answered.
I said
Kevin?
40. I said
40.
40.
40. I didn't actually. Ayendei. I think it's Ayendei.
My name is Allende, and I'm sorry. Forgive me if this is a poor setup, because I don't know why. Why would we know that this guy's been with 40 girls and this guy's been with 0? Why would we?
You
know
have
that?
a magic wand, and you
hold on,
magically know.
Hold on. And now, if they're identical twins, why is one a virgin and the other one been with 40 women?
No idea. All you know is one has 0 and one has 40. Who do you respect more?
All right, I'll give you this one. Well, I guess the guy that has 40. But...
Yes, of course, right? We would all agree, because in male world, to some extent, the number of body count, as you've said, is a heuristic for something, right? As you would say, the guy with the 40 body count, there's probably something going on there for him that isn't going on for his twin. Maybe he's got better game, maybe more money, maybe he just actually talks to women and his brother doesn't. There's something probably going on that makes him more valuable, have higher status, which is why he's achieved 40 bodies. The only reason
I think I can bridge the gap, actually, because I understand both your points.
Hold on, I'm going to pause you before you do that. The only reason why you would wiggle around at all with this hypothetical is because you're coping a little bit, or you think that I'm trying to get you into a debate trap, which is not what I'm trying to do.
Okay,
and it means you're not engaging with me in good faith.
Hold on. First of all, I'm not afraid of anything of this sort. That's number one. Number two, I'm just being what I will always have to be, which is honest with myself and with others. Now, number one, I don't respect guys just for the amount of women they slept with. They could have slept with low quality women. They could have slept with unattractive women. They could have slept with drunk women. It could be every variation of douchebag as to why they slept with 40 women. Whereas one guy might only been with one woman, but she is quality. She's a dime piece. Also, a guy might be celibate. I've done it myself, and it takes a lot of strength and discipline to be celibate when you actually have access to punani all the time. When I chose to be celibate, I literally had an infinite amount of women that I could have been with, and that's when I chose to say nothing at all, right? For my own self. So I would respect that more than the guy that's just going around constantly sleeping with easy to sleep with women. Like Nas said, you talked about rap. Like Nas said way back in the 90s, you're a fool if your main chick is easy to fuck. So I'm not impressed by dudes sleeping with girls that are easy to sleep with to begin with. Not impressive to me.
Let me bridge the gap, because actually I can bridge the gap. You both are partially correct. So Ayendei is correct in the sense that generally speaking, the guys with a high late count, they have it because
Hold on, I have to stop you because we're saying that I have to stop you. I have to stop you because we're saying the same thing. What I'm trying to actually prove. So he thinks that I'm doing a trick with my hypothetical to get him to admit to some clause that will later get him to have to admit a later clause. What I'm only doing is testing good faith with this hypothetical, because the obvious answer in the hypothetical is we respect the guy with 40 body count more. That's fucking obvious. This is self-evident. This is why, for example, guys with higher body counts, as you all admit, are typically pursued more often and respected, whereas women typically don't really want to get with virgins. The only reason you would quibble on this is because you think that I am going to trap you later, and that means at no point are you engaging with me in good faith. You can't answer the hypothetical.
Nobody's worried about being trapped.
No. The answer is that the reason why we respect the 40 body count more is because we assume there is something going on that has allowed him to achieve that, which is what you would call status, right? He's probably good looking, more built. There's something going on, right? And so this is what you're answering with background. There's some nuance going on. And I get the nuance, but the fact that you can't engage with the hypothetical suggests to me that you can engage with me on good faith. You've already decided that I'm talking from a female lens when you know nothing about me, and therefore you're not engaging with my words. You're trying to basically read ahead of where I'm going with things and then responding to where, yes, you are. Yes, you are. And you've done this over and over and over again, which is fine, but it makes interlocuting with you pretty much impossible because you're not responding to my words. You're responding with copium.
Kyler, let me get my point across, because you're going to see that's going to benefit you in some ways as well. Okay. So what I was saying before I was semi-rudely interrupted is that Allende is right in the sense that generally speaking, that usually it's kind of like the horse before the carriage. Generally speaking, you get the reason you have a high body count is because you have the status and you have other characteristics. He's right about that. Kyla is also right in the fact that aside from that point, that competence with women, i.e. the amount of girls you sleep with, is generally respected. However, it's not as simple as that. So for example, a guy who's been with like 10 really hot girls will be more respected than the guy who's been with 15 ugly girls. So Ayendei is right. It's not as simple as that. But generally speaking, Kyla does have a point that competence with women in of itself, in isolation, is respected amongst men and also women. Does that kind of clarify things? Because I think I'm kind of bridging the gap here.
That was excellent, Alex. I agree with you 100%. But now I'm going to go ahead and take shots because you're doing a lot of accusing over there. You're making a lot of accusations. So I'm going to go ahead and make mine. I think where we're bumping heads, me and you, sister, is that you think you know men a hell of a lot better than you actually do. And I sense that from like the moment you first started speaking. You're used to having like these weak dudes that just tell you, yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And that's fine. I'm just here to say, as a guy, like, you know, I've been a man my whole life, and I've always interacted with men heavily in different areas of life. And I have to say, you do not understand men as well as you think you do. And you are trying to oversimplify a lot of our thought process and a lot of our behaviors. And that really just isn't fair. Much like I would say the same thing to guys that try to oversimplify women. Oh, that's just female nature. That's just the way women are. There's a lot of guys doing the same thing, trying to make women very black and white, and they're not. And neither are guys. Okay? So there's no reason for me to like I'm not invested in beating you in some type of debate. I see you making that assumption. I'm not a debater. Alex is, he's great at what he does. Debate isn't my thing. I'm just here to have the conversation with you. I don't really care about winning or beating you or one-upping you or gotcha moments or anything like that. So I want you to get that out of your head. And I am interacting with you in good faith, but if I don't agree, I don't agree.
Okay, so potentially you are being good faith, I'll grant you that. Then what's happening instead is that you've made presumptions about me that are incorrect. For example, you don't know much. Hold on. You said that, for example, I don't know men very well. Do you know anything about my content?
I'm listening to what you say, and I have watched some of your
Do you know
content,
anything about my content?
Listen,
do you know anything about my content?
Listen, I know what you're trying to do. Good job. But I'm talking to you, and
I don't
I'm reacting
think you
to
do.
the things you've
This is what I'm saying.
Said. Yes,
I don't think you do know what I'm trying to do, or who I am,
what does that
or
have
the
to
perspectives
do with,
I come from.
What does that have to do with us having a conversation?
Ayendei asked me to send over a link to your content before this, so he requested a link to your channel before this.
Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to predict the next belief that I'm going to have about something, because I'm very concerned.
I'm not predicting, because I never was predicting.
I think you've archetyped me, is what I think has happened. You came in, you just said, the moment I met you, the few words that you said, I knew that this is a girl who thinks she knows more about men than she actually does.
No, that's not what I
You've
said. Don't misquote
me.
Don't misrecord it. It's recorded. We can go back. What I actually said was
I wrote it down.
I started to get the idea that that's where you're coming from. And everything that you said since then is still an indicator that you think you understand us more than you do. And I'm basing that on what you're actually saying. Like the word for word that you're saying is what I'm analyzing. And you are talking as if you know 100% that this is how men operate socially with one another, and this is what men are thinking when they interact with women, 100%.
But I don't believe that at all.
That's the way you're talking.
No, that's not at all what I believe.
But that's the way you're phrasing it, though.
I'm concerned enough because you've archetyped me.
Let me ask some of the other guys. Kev, Prince, Alex, do you agree with me, yes or no, that she does make statements as if she understands what's going on in men's heads?
I don't know if I can adequately answer that question because I'd have to be able to take a guess at her intent. So at best, it would be a guess. So I don't know what's going on inside Erudite's head. So I can't adequately answer that question.
I have something written down, but I think it's to ask Kyla for a bit later. That kind of addresses your point. I will just say this. I think, Kyla, you do sort of presuppose a bit that men will be happier being in a committed relationship, which I don't think is necessarily the case. Because I know it's not the case for me, and we can talk about that later. But to answer your question, Allende a little bit, but not too much.
But I'm not trying to gang up on you or anything like that. I'm just saying, from a guy's perspective, some of the things you have said is like you got us figured out and you got us in a box. And I'm just asking, do the other guys kind of felt like, well, I'm not that simple, or not? But I'm not trying to gang up on you or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not that simple. A lot of stuff have a lot of factors, and you haven't been from a guy's perspective.
Sure. Do you guys think that I believe that all men will all be happy if they're in a long-term relationship? Do you genuinely think that I believe that?
I think you think majority.
No, but you said it like that, though.
Sure, because we make broad sweeping generalizations about dating groups all the time, just like we made broad generalizations about like black pillars are or red pillars are. But like, I guess this is where, for example, we can be like neutral faith to bad faith to good faith. Neutral faith would maybe like take my word as it is and then maybe clarify if you think that it is. Good faith would probably presume she's saying that this like generalization, but probably she realizes that there are some men that this is not true for. For example, I do a podcast with Kevin and Alex. I realize that some men are not going to just be satisfied with like a single, very standard, closed, monogamous, long-term relationship. Of course, that's true. Of course, I realize these things.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I did kind of get the impression, Kyla, that you believe that maybe for the overwhelming majority of guys, being in a relationship is going to be, maybe I just misunderstood you, is better than having casual sex. That's sort of like, not for every guy, but for like, over 50%.
Yep. Yeah, I was making a general statement. I'm a norm. Absolutely. I think most men would be happier in a committed longer term relationship. I don't think most men are going to even be successful enough or be able to find a partner who would be okay with them having casual sex. And it seems like most of us want some level of committed partner throughout most of our life. Now, there are exceptions to that, but most people want a partner to invest in them throughout their life.
But the thing is, can I say something? Majority of men will be happy having a few hookups before they get into a long-term relationship. If they get into a long-term relationship and they've never gone through that hookup phase, they're going to be generally unhappy and thinking, wow, I wonder what would happen if I went through that. So that's the biggest part. I disagree with that.
I agree that men will do that. The issue is I don't think that that's biologically inherent to men. I think the reason that men think that is because to some extent, well, yes, you don't need to sell men their sexual drive. We do sell men sexual status as a sex as a status symbol. We do sell them that. Just like we sell women, for example, that purity is a status.
Oh no,
I need to push back on that really quickly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
First, is it okay? Because I don't. This seems like 4 versus 1 right now. So
I can handle all of you because you're all wrong. Just kidding.
Okay,
Can I get water before I do it?
I'm somewhere in the middle.
Let me just grab water before we 4v1. Give you guys some time
I'll
to
bring up
stew.
my point once you come back.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing.
Because I definitely disagree with that part of like that it's inherently.
I told y'all it's going to be juicy. I called this the juicy podcast.
Why you only got one girl on, man? You got to even it out.
I'm surprised you keeping her composure though. Like that's good.
No, I'm not surprised.
She's
This is
a
what
good
she
debater,
does.
man. That's
No, this is what she does.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah, I didn't think she was going to.
Nah, she's just good at hiding.
No,
her feelings.
grounded. I've never really seen her lose her shit. All right, cool.
So let me continue with what I was saying.
Right, I'll let you go first, and I'll go after
when she's back in. Yeah, this is important. So, Kyla, can you hear me?
I can now. Just give me a second.
Sure. There you go. So on your point before about how you were saying, okay, well, that's just something that like men are taught. I have to push back on that because, like, all right, if you look at men and their porn watching habits, they're watching a variety of women all the time. And don't you think that that's a reflection of something deeper that men secretly, men inherently kind of seek variety in women?
So I would argue, for example, that biologically, men are always going to be benefited sexually by having more partners because males don't have to commit to the baby because they don't have to carry it. So from a sexual species level success rate, yeah, men should probably have novelty. The issue is that evo-psych kind of breaks down once you introduce human civilization. For example, our societies at a universal level have moved through phases of both monogamy and polygamy and now back to monogamy for very specific reasons, which we can maybe get into, but it seems like these things transition. For example, just because something's biologically innate doesn't mean that we also don't socially manifest or create it.
Yeah, let me jump in.
So,
you want to respond?
Yeah, go ahead. Well, can I say just one thing really quickly because I think this is important. So, wouldn't you say though, because kind of the argument that we were sort of starting off with.
Is he breaking up for you guys as well, or is it just?
Yeah, he's breaking up.
Steak. That tie-fi. Am I back?
Yeah,
you're back.
Try
yeah.
now.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the argument that we were kind of making is okay, well, what like most men won't be fulfilled by living like that high value man lifestyle of being polygamous. But wouldn't you say though, because I agree from a societal standpoint, when you have when it comes to like big populations, society that promotes polygamy versus monogamy is probably going to fail. Historically, that's the case. But don't you think that forcing men or encouraging them to be monogamous is more sort of a cope? Because I think it's in men's natural nature to want to hook up with a bunch of women. But the reason that it's a good prescription for most men to be monogamous is because, to be honest, if they try to play that high value man game of dating around, they're probably going to fail. There's only like a select few men that actually are able to do it. And those select few men are having the time of their lives. And so for them, that's probably a good prescription to just be like, well, yeah, just go be polygamous, do whatever you want. But for the vast majority of men who actually try it, they'll fail. But don't you think it's actually like, because you said cope a while ago of like, oh, you're, coping about whatever. But don't you think the actual cope is that most men secretly really do want to be polygamous, but they can't, so then they become monogamous?
So here's one thing that I would argue. If we're talking about biological predilection, why do we tell men that rape is bad? When if you want to maximize your spread of your genes, you want to maximize novelty, you want to maximize the number of partners that you've had, and women don't have testosterone, so they're very physically easy to subdue. Why would we tell a bunch of society of young men that raping is bad? Why have we socialized men in this way?
Hold on. We haven't had to tell them that it's bad. You know that it's bad. Everybody has a compass inside of them. Everybody knows what's right and what's wrong. Undeniable. Everybody has this compass. So if you do something that harms someone else, you take someone else's property, you are going to have some type of feelings that indicate that was wrong. So even if it was legal, like for example, I've been to countries where the consent age is extremely young. That doesn't mean that I was over there like, whoa, I'm gonna get me some 15-year-olds.
Sure, but it seems like a lot of the men in those countries are very motivated and interested in doing it. For example, Pakistan.
Not necessarily. No, it depends on the it depends on the culture, Pakistan, not the country.
Well, isn't that kind of the point that I'm raising? For example, we have both biological tendencies and then acculturation, socialization. So, for example, in Pakistan, it's kind of like the little known secret that most men have young boys under 10 that they regularly have anal sex with. In fact, it's basically just a standard.
Isn't that Afghanistan? It's bachi-bachi, right?
There's a number of countries, but I'm going to use Pakistan as the main example, right? So there's kind of this cultural kind of hush-hush acceptance, but I don't think any of us would argue that that's necessarily good, even though in a lot of ways what they're doing is just satisfying their high sex drive, because a lot of the men that are doing this, for example, are oftentimes unmarried men.
Well, that was news to me. That's
for the record, PWF is taking a very anti-fucking young boys position on this, so I just want to clarify that for the audience. No, I mean,
we all would.
Princeo's also.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Princeo is on team fucking young boys.
You got me on that one because I don't see how they wouldn't know or feel that was wrong. Not to say that people don't do things that are wrong. There's plenty of circles of people doing things that are wrong, and they have their own little private secret, whatever they got going on. But for the majority of people, I think we would agree that we know when we do certain things that they're wrong. We know certain things are wrong, and we wouldn't even imagine or desire to want to do those things. And I think the R word that you mentioned would be one of them. Me personally, I don't even want to be with a woman if she doesn't like. How do they say, Alex? Burning desire, burning passion,
enthusiastic consent.
What were those guys calling it before?
Yeah, genuine burning desire.
Sure, and I believe that. Yeah, I believe that about you.
If it's not even at that level, me personally, I'm not interested. But that's not most guys. Most guys will sit there and try to convince a woman to let them. I don't want to convince a woman of anything. I don't want to change her mind. If you don't feel that way about me, then on to the next.
Yeah. And I totally believe you. What I'm saying is I would agree everyone would probably, for the most part, feel bad about rape, right? Which is good. The question is, where does that moral ping come from? Because if we go back 200 years, a lot of white people had black slaves, and I don't know how much moral ping there was. Whereas nowadays in North America, if I walked in, say like my husband's actually part black, say he walked in, I was like, this is my slave, everyone would judge me and think I'm a horrible person for it, which is based, by the way. But what I'm pointing to is this moral inclination, like rape bad or having slaves bad, seems to be very culturally defined, which is why, for example, taking brides at 12 in some countries seems kind of morally okay. But for us, we would find that repulsive.
It's not just very culturally defined. There's a cultural, and then there's also biological components to it, like human nature. For all of human history, stealing was considered wrong. Murder was wrong. There's some things that
no. I have to push back on this. That's patently false.
When
Kyle is right on this. So, for example,
we become Americans in the first place.
Hold on. We can use the Bible as an example, right? Because you can see a transition of how people. So, for example, we in America, we just take like the golden rule, for example, like treat others how you want to be treated, as just like inherent. That's not inherent. That's something that had to be taught over time.
No, right.
Look at the Old Testament. Hold on. You look at the Old Testament, for example. What they did in the Old Testament, which is thousand years ago, whenever somebody took over another tribe or another civilization, they would just murder all of them. They wouldn't just enslave them; they would murder all of them. They'd rape all the women, and it was like that's okay. But then that kind of changed over time with socialization. So it's something that, because we are raised in the West and we've always lived in a Christian normative society, we just take it as like, oh, of course, this is self-evident. Treat others how you want to be treated, but that's not. That's actually contradictory to human nature. If you look at
I agree.
Throughout large history.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, there's some things on which we evolved on, like slavery is a good example of that. But generally speaking, stealing was considered wrong unless it was after a war.
It wasn't.
No, not really.
Within your own tribe, it was always considered wrong. It was only after you fought another tribe and you killed all their people, then you take their shit. But within your own tribe, it was always considered wrong.
Not necessarily.
Typically,
it depends on your status. So if you're like the
king, I can't agree with you on that, Alex.
Tribe, you can just take whatever.
I was just about to go where Kev went, because the person that was leading the tribe viewed themselves as superior to everyone else, and what's theirs is yours in that position. So,
but
what kind of stealing?
They didn't see that as stealing. They saw that more as like redistribution. Like that person, like you're paying homage to them because they're the leader, and the reason you have whatever you have is because of that person's leadership. So
we're gonna have to agree on this one, Alex.
So, if I can maybe make the point that I think everyone's saying, a lot of times the things that our societies come to view as immoral is in part because these things, if done in a tribe or a collective group, occur all the time, your collective falls apart. So you're right. Once essentially we had civilization, theft was considered immoral, but that's because you can't have a group of 250 like adults living together cohesively if they're constantly jacking each other's shit, right? This is probably a large part where like rape came from, for example, is they realized at some point that like, probably just taking somebody's like wife, daughter, anyone, and just fucking sticking your dick in her because you want to isn't going to lead to a very good social cohesion. It seems to be a problem. And then we build morals on top of this of like, well, it doesn't treat people well. So when we look at morality, well, maybe we could argue for some element of biological innateness. What's more innate is the feeling of disgust. What's culturated is what we feel moral revulsion to. For the most part, there is a couple of things, for example, that we don't have any good reason for why we have moral revulsion to, yet we have universal revulsion, like incest and cannibalism are two really classic examples, but we still kind of have that moral revulsion. Most things, when it comes to morality, for example, are somewhat socialized into us, which is fine. Like, I have no problem with that. What I would argue, though, going back to kind of like where I was going with this argument, is that something like social status is also broadly socially culturated into our people. So, for example, in the 1920s, what was viewed as high social status for men would have been different than it is maybe for now, or would have been different than what a high status Asian male looked like. There's going to be some things that are similar. But for example, when you say, well, don't most men want to have novelty? Sure, maybe they do, but it seems like our society for a really long time agreed it's better if men don't explore that possibility, right? It's because there was tons of men who would get married at 15 and they would live their entire lives with one woman and have 19,000 children, and they would be decently content. And so it's like, if this existed in our society, it seems to be the idea that men must have casual sex is probably a little bit more of an idea sold to them. While I would agree, though, that their sex drive itself is going to be innate. You don't teach young boys to want to.
Let me respond.
Hold on. I want to flip that, though, because I personally believe that it's the opposite. I believe that the monogamy is what was pushed on them. The monogamy is what was sold to them because the powers that be were creating a system that required nuclear families. It required one man with one woman and women to be virgins until married in order for them in order for them to coerce the people the way they wanted them, because whatever we experience in society is socially engineered. I'm like finding out that majority of people don't believe that notion, which I find ridiculous. It's blatantly obvious that we are socially engineered to behave the way that we do. Each group of people that make up our collective society have been conditioned to think, act, and behave that way in their own little group or bubble. So when you have, you know, a group of people that are in power and they're like, listen, we need men to work factories, we need men to do dangerous jobs, we need men to go build bridges and dams and do all these type of things. Well, what motivates these men? Well, vagina, but more so also providing for their family. So I'll tell you what, we have to make sure that each man has a woman, so that that's the carrot in front of the donkey, and then he'll bore children with that woman, and those children will be our future society. They'll be our future labor force, our future soldiers and military, right? And will also be the dangling carrots now. Now it's multiple carrots in front of this donkey's face to go out here and just be a workhorse to provide for this family. So we have to make sure that we don't allow nature to run its course, which would be all the women selecting the top 20% of men, and the top 20% of men basically having all the women, leaving the other 80% of men to lack motivation and desire because they're not getting no women no way, because all the women are already occupied. Also, in order to get these men to take these women as wives, they would have to be virgins. So we're going to have to make sure that that's a cultural norm, that the women stay virgins until marriage. So we'll just go ahead and implement that into the religion, or we'll amp it up since it's already in the religion and make it non-negotiable.
Yeah, and I'll fully agree with you that monogamy is also just a social creation, right? Enforced monogamy, as you said, it solved the problem of supply and demand related to competition. It took a lot of similarly single young men who otherwise would be bored, angry, and more likely to do crime, and it made them less likely to do all those things, because being married is actually one predictor of not doing future crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issue that I would argue is that what we socialize people to do should probably be for making a better society. So if we're allowing, for example, a socialization of saying that casual sex is what makes people happy, I'm fine with that if it's true. What I'm arguing is that we've socialized both young men and young women that casual sex will make you happy, and they don't seem to be very happy, and they usually come out of their casual sex phase a little bit more broken. And that's a problem to me. This isn't to say that casual sex is bad or any of this. These are just tools. The problem is that casual sex for men doesn't seem to actually be making them happier. It's not solving our addiction crisis, our suicide crisis, our depression and loneliness crisis that young men are having.
Hold on, I want to challenge two aspects of that. Number one, I'm not sure I am recognizing who is the they that's telling people that casual sex would make them happy. I'm not sure if that's what they're being sold. I think what they're being told, primarily women, because I really don't think this has anything to do with men or young boys. I think what they're telling women is that they have choice and freedom, and what women are choosing to do with that choice and freedom might be some of what you're describing. So they're telling women, yeah, you can have the highest body count that you want. You can sleep with whoever you want. You could be just like a man, whatever. I don't think they're saying, go sleep with a bunch of guys will make you happy. I think what they're saying is you can do whatever a man can do. You're free to do whatever you want with no consequence. So I think the issue is that people are indulging themselves rather than controlling themselves and their inhibitions and making some better decisions. And you were saying that we should be conditioned to do what's going to be best for the overall society. I don't think that's ever going to happen because of who's calling the shots. The people that are making the decisions, they already have their agenda. They already have their end game and their goal. And it's to destabilize us. It's to, corrupt us as much as possible. So of course they're going to encourage, these sinful behaviors and activities, because that's the society they want. One that's confused, broken, and controlled. There was one other thing, what you were saying about the guys. You're speaking as if young guys are actually in a position to have casual sex when the vast majority of guys can't have sex at all in any circumstance. The most they could do is touch on themselves, like Al Bundy after a long day of work, which is pathetic, but that's what majority of guys are doing. So I'm not sure where do you see the average guy? The average guy does not have the ability to go have casual sex, bro.
The average guy is a sexless virgin. I would agree with you on that, right?
Right.
We don't have enforced monogamy anymore. There's a supply and demand problem for sex and competition, and it's being expressed forward as the incel movement and the red pill outrage, right? Who is they who's selling this message of casual sex? Pop culture, movies, music, right? We've got Lil Wayne, pussy, money, weed, right? Those are the things that you should pursue and are going to make you happy. I mean, most trap artists you're going to be hard pressed to find a number of rappers or pop stars. This is what Cardi B is selling to young women. I mean, Cardi B's like the worst for young women because she's basically saying like, my value is that like I have a really hot, wet pussy, right? Which is like terrible. But like what they sell to young women is you're an empowered lady if you take command of your sexuality and you do what you want, and fuck all those conservative white dudes who want you to be pure. No, like you're more based when you express your sexuality. That's what they're selling to young women. What they're selling to young men is kind of the same stuff: pussy, weed, money. That's what's going to make you boss. That's what's going to make you cool.
I don't think that's about sex though. I think that's just about demoralizing the population. I don't think sex is a specific in that. I think it's just one of the many sins that they're encouraging.
Sure, but would you not agree?
I don't think it's about casual sex per se. I think it's about just the downfall of all our morals and our values completely. Like,
sure, but even if I grant you that, but even if I grant you that, casual sex is probably one of the main means that they sell this to young men, because young men have super high sex drives and they want to fuck all the time. So casual sex is the best way.
But the young men aren't having the sex. It's the women.
I agree, which is why they're getting angry. They're outraged and they're disappointed. But just because they're not having sex doesn't mean that they're not being sold the idea that sex is status.
But the thing is, most guys would be happy if they did have the casual sex. That's the one thing.
Yeah, exactly. They would be happy.
They'd also be happy with a nice girl who invested with him and was willing to be a little kinky and put it in her butt, or whatever else they wanted to do. He'd be probably similarly happy with just a nice girl. But we've sold him that the novelty of casual sex is better.
But he won't know that until the casual sex, though. That's the thing I want you to understand about men. He won't know that until he's had the casual sex.
And girls, guys who are able to get these casual sex, if you're not able to get these casual sex, majority of girls will not want you, or they'll be with you for a little bit and leave you. If you're not,
get bored.
Can't get a girl.
I agree that most women will leave you because we've created having sex for men as a status symbol for men, which is why women this is why women will basically say if a guy's less experienced than her in sex, she's less attracted to him because his sex count is a form of status for him. And that's not biological. We've cultured that into women and men.
No, I think it has a lot less to do with that, with an arbitrary number, a lot more to do with how you carry yourself. So I can use.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
When I my first girlfriend ever, I was at by the time I got to my first relationship, I was with 10 girls. Pretty respectable number for someone who's like 20 years old. But again, I had a lot of bad traits. I was kind of needy. I wasn't able to articulate my boundaries. I didn't know what I was into, what I was about, right? And that relationship, because of my own shortcomings that haven't yet worked out through the process of going out and getting good with girls, that's one of the big reasons that relationship fell apart. Also, I picked a girl that didn't really have the same values as me because I was coming from a place of scarcity. As I got a lot better with girls, as I got up to 50, 100 girls, then I became a lot better also at one, becoming a better version of myself, and two, selecting the kind of girl that matches with me. So I don't think it's like the girls my girlfriend now, I don't think she's with me because I've been with 300 women. I don't think she gives a shit. I think if she had to choose, she would prefer that I was the guy with 10 girls. She's with me because of all other things that happened as a result of me being with 300 girls.
Exactly. That's what it is. So I don't think that it's this. I don't know why you're associating the leg count for guys so much with the status. I'm telling you, the status is what allows the leg count.
That is where the heuristic is. This is why when you make a.
Let me try this. You were trying some hypotheticals, right? Let's try this. Similar to your hypothetical, but to make my point. Let's say you have two CEOs, right? They've accomplished the same. They bring in the same amount annually. They have the same amount of businesses. They manage the same amount of employees. They have the same amount of staff, same payroll, same everything, same educational level, the whole 9 yards, and the same height, same athletic ability, whatever. One of them has been married since college. Fresh out of college, he got married, worked on his empire. His wife helps him out a lot, blah, blah, blah. The other guy, he's a bachelor, like Mr. Biggs from Sex and the City. Never got married, just bedded beautiful women all over. Now, who do I respect more? Is this going to be a shocker? I respect the married guy more because he has the continuity of the one woman. She was with him before he made his money, before he had his riches. So we know she's truly there for him. She's down for him. She played a significant role in him becoming successful in the first place. She keeps him grounded. She knows what he needs when he needs it, right? She's got his back. I respect that dude because what he has is the total package. So what I'm trying to say is how many women they've been with doesn't affect their status. Their status is exactly the same, right? Now,
once you get above a certain point,
no,
yes.
No, here's what I would argue. Actually, Ayendei, you've broken out of the social scripting that's toxic, and I respect you for it. I think it's good that you will look at the guy with the wholesome quality life and be like, that is something to pursue. What I'm arguing in that what we're selling young men right now, not necessarily you, right? I'm willing to believe that you're not selling young men this pill. I'm willing to believe that you're trying to tell men to live quality, valuable lives, find a good woman who will invest in you. I'm willing to believe you. What I'm arguing is that broadly, pop culture and society is still selling young men. This is why Sneako's so popular. Sneako would respect the guy who's just got thousands of bitches because he thinks that that's cool. And the guy who's the CEO, he'd laugh at him and be like, what do you mean? You got all this money and yet you still go home to Boo Bear? He would be questioning why the CEO isn't polygamous too. That's what he would be questioning.
Well,
he
hasn't been in certain situations then.
I agree that it's an immaturity, but I think that's something you're maybe having survivor bias where you've come out the other side and you've recognized what's valuable and meaningful in life. And kudos to you. And I'm glad that you're speaking to young men because we need more people to speak like this. What I'm saying is this isn't what we're peddling most people.
I think the point you're missing, Kyla, is yes, we value experience with women up until a certain point. There's not going to be, so in the hypothetical, you said a virgin versus 40. Okay, fair enough. Pretty much everyone's going to pick the guy with a 40. However, if you do the hypothetical guy with 30 or 300, then it's going to be like, do we really give a shit between 30 and 300? I think most guys will be like, I don't really respect one more than the other, right? It would just come down to the hotness of the girls.
So I think it's more of a reflection of the capability.
Sure, but here's what I would argue.
The confusion is.
Just because there's a ceiling on the status that it confers you doesn't mean that sex having doesn't confer you status, and it doesn't confer women the same status. This is why we have movies called The 40-Year-Old Virgin, who's got Steve Carell being a fucking loser the whole time, versus like dudes like Lil Wayne and stuff talking about pussy, money, and weed. Right?
It's because it's a reflection of capability. I think this is where this is it, right? So, for example, Allende, if we took the same monogamous guy that you said that was a CEO, let's say that he was just like terrible with women. He was kind of forced in a monogamous relationship because that was the only girl that would accept him. Would you still respect him the same way?
No.
Yeah. So that's we use kind of lay count and stuff as a proxy for a man's capability because being good with a bunch of women is really hard, right? Yep. It's hard to have a high lay count. So that's why we respect it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're monogamous if you're monogamous because you're coming from a place of strength and capability, that's a whole different thing.
I get that. What I'm telling you,
get into monogamous relationships because it's a cope.
Well,
so what I'm telling you though,
hold on. Before you say that, sure. So you're like understanding us a little bit better at what I'm trying to say about how guys are really thinking. So where the respect is coming from with men is exactly what Kevin's talking about. It's capability, because there's guys that are going to come up to me and they're going to have this respect for me and they never really met me or spoke to me, but they're going to be like, bro, you're fucking jacked. How'd you get your arms that big? So where that respect is coming from is the fact that I'm capable of doing something with my body that they aren't, that they would like to do, but they can't do. Therefore, they respect it because it's above their ability at this moment. So that's why Alex was like, yo, after 30 girls to 300, what does it matter at that point? If you could sleep with 30 women at will that are beautiful in a short period of time, you've proven that you can do that. Now, if you keep on doing that, it's like, bro, there's more important things in life. We know you can get laid. Good job. We know you can get laid on the first night. Great. Here's a cookie and a medal. But now there's other things that you can do that are impressive and admirable. So I just want you to understand where the respect mechanism comes from in the first place. Yeah. I think that would be better, at you understanding why I'm saying that it's not that simple as you're making it. Like, oh, sleep with a lot of guys equals respect and status from other guys.
Yeah.
No.
So let me recapitulate what I'm saying, because at no point have I ever been under delusion about why specifically you're respecting it. I understand that essentially to get 30 women means that for men, you can get 30 women. That means something. What I'm saying is that when you're 17, there's a simple heuristic, which is to get women means I'm a valuable man. And a lot of young men don't fully understand the gap between this. This is why they come to dating coaches and all this stuff, because young men mostly are trying to get the sex. And then dating coaches like you guys have to turn around and be like, well, to get that, you have to do the self-improvement shit. And the young men are like, fuck, right? I thought I could just have sex. Because young men, what they're really doing, a lot of times the self-improvement starts because they're pursuing sex. What I would argue, though, that would be better is that if young men didn't see sex as status necessarily, and they saw self-improvement as the fulfillment, I would argue that it's not the transition from being able to have sex to now settling down that makes a man satisfied and happy. It's the fact that he's done so much self-improvement. That's probably fundamentally why he's happy.
Kyle,
is he's realized there are more important things.
Let me respond.
I would love that. That sounds great. Real quickly, because this is the area that I cover.
No one ever lets me talk.
No, hold on. This is specifically what I cover. Like my entire channel is about this, right? So I cover self-improvement, but a lot of guys don't listen to me because all they can think about is that they don't get any pussy. So it's like from a Maslow's
because self-improvement isn't status, sex is. That's why they're not listening to you. Yes.
Sex is the reward.
Yes.
I got to counter this.
It is the reward. Status is rewarding. If you walk into a bar and everyone knows who you are, that's fucking rewarding. I'm not saying sex isn't pleasant or enjoyable for the young men. The status is part of the reward, right? Status doesn't mean that that's not rewarding.
Okay, I'm going to speak now. Okay.
Most men, this is the question I pose young men all the time. Would you rather take a 9 who has average sex or a 5 who gives you fucking amazing sex? What do you prefer?
Okay, let me talk. I've been trying to get this word in for like 15 minutes. Okay, so I think you're missing the point on some things, Kyle. The first thing is that it's not that the reason that they can't focus or on the self-improvements because they need the status. It more has to do with the fact that it's like when you're not getting sex, it's harder to understand when you're not a man, but when you're like that young guy and you're not getting sex, it's like you just start thinking of yourself as a loser. Like I know.
This is what I'm saying. Why?
Right, hold on. You need to.
Why?
Hang on. Let me just finish. You need to it's like this, like I gotta bust a nut, like at all costs. It's like you're literally
because they would masturbate if they just wanted to bust a nut. Why are they so fixated on having sex with a woman?
Hold on. I don't masturbate, so it has to be a woman.
That's fair. Most young guys do. Let's be honest. They're fucking shagging off like 3 to 4 times a day, spewing their zinc everywhere.
I'm muting you guys. Okay, let me finish this point, and then you can respond all to it if you want. Okay, the point I'm making is like they have this like they need to bust a nut, and eventually they wind up just having sex with a girl they don't even find attractive. Masturbation is not the same thing. It does not, even though it seems the same to a woman, it does not satisfy the same urge, right? It just does not satisfy the same urge.
Yes. What urge?
Because
it's not orgasming.
No.
I'm getting him there. What's the urge?
I'm about to get. There's something about that man to woman contact, about that having sex, that is just so much more satisfying than just jerking off. It's not the status piece. The status piece
can be validation.
I don't think it's the validation either. It's just something inherent in a man that you want to be able to have sex with a woman, right? And that's sometimes that need gets so bad when you're not getting laid is you wind up having sex with a woman you don't even find attractive, which is why when I was like 18, 19, I was having sex with some very questionable girls. The second thing, you're talking about the self-improvement, wouldn't it be better if men could just focus on the self-improvement aspect? The problem is, in order to do that kind of hard work, you need a strong driver. And for a lot of guys, getting laid and sex is that driver that causes them. Without that drive, they wouldn't do it. It's the same thing with going to the gym, right? If it wasn't for the fact that, I want to look good for girls, a lot of guys wouldn't do that hard work of going to the gym, following a strict diet, lifting weights, being sore and all that shit, right? So you need that external motivator, like, getting laid, that's going to push you to do self-improvement. And without that external drive, very, very few guys would have the self-discipline to actually embark on a self-improvement journey. All right, I've said my piece.
And then the thing is too, most guys, even when they get in a relationship, they stop doing the self-improvement because the motivating factor was definitely the girl. So like saying fall in love with the self-improvement factor is not practical at all. Realistically, most guys do it for girls. And another thing too, sex does make men happy because I know a lot of guys who are married are in sexless marriages and they're fucking miserable. So to accept sex makes guys happy.
Yeah, and kids, a lot of times for a lot of guys, becomes that drive, it becomes that motivator. There's a lot of guys that were fucking bums, and then they had a kid, and then they became the most productive person you fucking know. So we do need those drivers, but I agree with Alex 100% that it's not the nut and it's not the status in society that makes being with a woman so valuable. It's something about being denied vagina. You know, I suspect that ultimately it's because it's like someone whispering in your ear, you're not even worth being alive. You're not even worth reproducing. Nobody should ever make a copy of you. You're not even worth making a copy. And when the women do want you and desire you, it's the opposite. You're so amazing. We should make more of you. So it does a lot for a guy's psyche and confidence to be approved for access to a woman. And then, of course, the more beautiful, the better. And the shorter the period in time that's required and the less that he has to do is even more the pat on the back. So, I mean, I get that, how valuable that is to guys. But I think what you were saying earlier about what's bringing young boys to dating coaches is the message that they're getting from society and them not getting laid. And I don't think that's what it is. I think what's bringing young boys to men like us is the lack of fatherhood. And I think that's why the guys don't know how to harness this energy that you're talking about, or why they would even believe that somehow status is connected with how many women that they are with. It's because they didn't have a big brother, a father, an uncle, a grandfather, someone to explain to them what is respectable about a man, or what he should be basically working on or becoming good at in order to be valued by other men and respected by other men. And then by virtue of that, you get some vagina.
One last point on all of this. Some scientists.
Can I jump in yet? Because I promise I waited so good.
Okay, I'll just one last point, and that's all you, Kyle.
Okay.
They say some scientists say sexual selection is actually a stronger force than natural selection in terms of driving behavior and forcing people to basically evolve. So that is also like something that's debated in the scientific community. What is a stronger driver, sexual selection or natural selection? Okay, that's my piece.
Is that exclusively among humans? Because it would make sense in the modern day because we live in such a nerfed up society. There's not many people getting Darwin Awards.
Amongst humans, yeah. Amongst humans.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
Okay. Every one of you is just emphasizing what I'm trying to say. And I think I really appreciate that you brought up the lack of fatherhood, because I think that you are getting to the crux of the issue, right? I wrote down things. It's not just that they want a nut. There's something different about being with a woman, right? And I think Ayendei described it best. There's this little whisper in a young man's mind that says, if a woman doesn't even want to lay with you, what fucking value do you have? I think all of this is deeply true, but he could satisfy that need for intimacy, for validation, for pleasure, right? For enjoyment and for status with one woman. None of this proves to me that they need to be having sex with multiple women. If they want to say that I'm valuable enough to be chosen by somebody, that suggests to me one woman choosing you, right? All of this proves to me that the reason why men are proving casual dating has nothing to do with all this greater stuff, other than we're socializing men to think that that's valuable, when what's really valuable is like finding an intimate relationship, finding meaning in that relationship. And sure, some people, sex is more of like a fucking like sport for them, and they just enjoy it for like the simple pleasure and the novelty. But for a lot of people, it's more than that, and it's different than that, which is the intimacy and the validation. I agree that young men are coming to you because of the lack of fatherlessness. I think the incel movement and the whole like red pill movement is in large part because there aren't good male role models. What I would argue then as a good male role model is to stop selling young men this false idea that just having sex with lots of women is a good thing, but instead finding somebody that you can invest in and they'll invest in you back. That is what's going to lead to the most rich life for most people.
All right, I think most guys, the girl they end up settling down with is because they know they can't do any better, or because they date with other girls they can. So I think most guys would actually prefer a bunch of hookups, a bunch of hot girls, if they could.
Why? I agree with you, but why?
There's a long list of why, though.
Yeah, I can.
There's been multiple different reasons why me personally I wanted multiple women. So, for example, me, I don't even like the whole like what is it, one night stands or anything like that. I'm way too possessive for that. I want multiple women, like consistently. I want to have this woman and things are going fine. We're having a good time. Great. I meet another woman. Okay. What does that have to do with the one that I'm already talking to? Now I'm talking to both of them. I'm sleeping with both of them. And we're having a good time respectively, right? Then I meet a third girl and I really like her too. I'm not forfeiting shit. I'm not giving up anybody. If they want to leave, they want to leave. I'm not breaking it off. I'm not hitting and running because I'm looking for the quality to begin with. And if the quality's there, well, why should I have to limit myself to just this one girl, right? Why should I have to pick one over the other? Now, that's a different argument.
Because self-control is a value too. And just because you biologically want variety doesn't mean that that excuses your lack of ability to have impulse control over your biology.
No, but what I'm saying is,
okay, sure, but that's different when it comes to guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's different when it comes to guys that are capable of having that sex and guys that aren't. Like the point that Princeo brought up a while ago. Our entire point is saying that there's two different types of men who are capable of having sex with a bunch of women and decide to be monogamous. And that's actually very admirable and authentic because they have the temptation of a bunch of women. They're saying no to that. I'm going to be monogamous for a higher value, as opposed to most guys. They just settle with the hottest girl that will accept them. Right. So those are two entirely different things.
Exactly.
I want to ask you this,
girl
Kyla,
who will accept them. Exactly. That is the status piece. That's the status piece. That is why.
It's not the status piece. It's
yes. That is why when I give you the hypothetical, do you want a 9 who's average at sex or a 5 who's fucking amazing at sex? Most men want the 9. And the answer to that is because if you can show to your other bros and to society and to other women that I am quality enough that I can get a 9, it does confer you status.
Let's modify
that. And if you're not willing to acknowledge that,
let's modify the hypothetical, for example. Let's assume, okay, same exact thing, only the big caveat is you cannot show your 9 or your 5 to any of your friends. No one else can ever know about. That's still, most guys will pick the 9 because there's something about having sex with a hot girl that's just a lot more satisfying than having sex with an average girl.
Yes, because you've been socially cultured to believe that a 9 is valuable, that there is something valuable about you. Yes, if a woman who's a 9, hold on, let me explain this. If a woman who's a 9, she can pick anyone. She is gorgeous. She can pick anyone, and she fucking picked you. That means something about you. That's why you're picking the 9.
Hold on.
No, it's mediocre.
Hold on. I'm gonna give you the pushback on this one, right?
No, even if it's mediocre, it's still pretty awesome.
Just because status is externally conferred doesn't mean that it's not intrinsically conferred as well. This is what socialization does, is that things that are externally rewarding become also internally rewarding. This is how behaviorism works. If a 9 wants to fuck you, even if nobody else knows, damn, that makes you feel good because that means you're a good enough guy to get a fucking 9.
Okay,
it's empowering. And a beautiful woman wants your fucking nuts.
Wait. Hold on. All right, fine.
Absolutely,
let's go in order. Okay, Ayendei, go, and then I'll go.
Hold on, Alex. Listen.
All right.
You're doing a lot of like grouping everybody into one basket here. All right. I still think that you are way overestimating how much guys care about status or how we view status. You're way overestimating that. That's why I like the fact that Alex said, well, what if you're sleeping with this 9 and no one else sees it? Because majority of the baddies I've been with, nobody even knew. Nobody saw me with them. Nobody knew I did whatever I did. And they will always be in my memory. They will always be like, in my highlight reel. They'll always be in my top 10, my top
Except
whatever.
Except she was hiding in the closet. But aside from that, no one else saw.
Right. Yeah. Because there's a feeling that comes from no compromise. And what I mean by that is once I got used to being able to meet women somewhere, hook up with them the first night, the next place for me to go was to increase the quality of the women I'm pursuing. And that's what mattered to me the most. If I didn't get the 9 or the 10, I'm just going to go home, smoke a little weed, and go to sleep. I'm not going to drop my standard like I used to. Just like Alex said, I had that phase when I had to get laid, bro. I went for the 6 or the 7. It didn't work. I ended up going home with a 4.5 or a 5. I don't even want to be seen with this chick in public. I got through that phase real quick. You know what I mean? Because that was just like the little desperate, I'm young, I just want experience, I need hands-on, right? Once I got past that, and it was like meeting women and sleeping with women wasn't the challenge. The challenge now was the caliber of the women. And I'm telling you right now, I didn't give a shit. I could not possibly care less about who knew. I wasn't going to go tell anybody, oh, bro, look what I did. Oh, check this girl out. I don't care, bro. It's for me. I was there. I saw it. I experienced it. Just like sleeping with the unattractive chick normally wouldn't matter if nobody knew, right? Well, I knew. I'm not sleeping with a chick that's not attractive. It's never going to happen ever again. That's a vow that I made to myself. I don't care who knows or doesn't know. Yeah. Just like if the chick is beautiful, I don't care who knows or doesn't know. I'm doing it for myself. And one more thing that I have to push back on is when you said that if you give these guys a choice between a 5 and it's great sex or a 9 and the sex is trash, they'll pick the 9. I don't agree, because there's rich men that marry women that are of average attractiveness because they're looking for completely different qualities than her being hot. So I think that you're, again, oversimplifying men's decision-making and the way we think and the way that we pick women. I don't really think it's that simple.
Yeah,
I think
I
guys
totally deny the... Yeah,
go ahead.
I totally deny the idea that like men will choose the 9 with average sex over the 5 with great sex because of status. Like inherent, because like, look, if that's the case, then if I just walk out in public and I see a 9 walking by and she excites me, then by that logic, she excites me because it'll increase my status. That's not why she excites me. She excites me because she's fucking hot.
Kyle is not completely wrong. There's a little bit of a status component. It's just not.
Of course, there's a little bit, but that's not the main driving. That's not the main.
This is because you guys have decided that status is an exclusively extrinsic thing. It's not. Value and status are both extrinsic and intrinsic. For example, you can have a very high sense of self-value, and then if it's also externally validated, that's nice. However, value can be deeply intrinsic, and it typically is. When this is like being trained in martial arts, right? In hand-to-hand combat. If you can just carry yourself with more confidence, because if you know that you can kill 90% of humans on the planet Earth with your bare hands, you carry yourself with more value, more status, and more confidence. Same way, if you know that you can bag a 9, even if nobody else knows, you fucking know that. There's a value in that. A 9 picked you. She said, dude, not only are you worth it, but you're so worth it that I want your balls, right? And even if nobody else knows, you fucking know. And that matters. That is why men are picking the 9, because they know that it is conferring them some level of intrinsic self-value and status.
That's two different things.
Value and status are the exact same thing.
That supports our argument. That supports our argument. Our whole argument is saying that you need to know that you have the capability to have sex with hot women in order for you to be authentic in your monogamous relationships. So like our whole thing that we were saying beforehand is we fundamentally reject the idea that men should just be seeking monogamous relationships, because then they'll be wondering their entire lives whether they could have been polygamous, which is more their natural temperament.
If you know you can bag a 9, you have confidence in yourself because you know that you have value and status. Value and status are very different. The difference is that status is how we term external value, and value is typically this intrinsic word. But they're often cyclical and self-feeding. That's why when you're more successful at sports, you have more extrinsic value and status, but also more intrinsic value and status.
Let me respond. Okay, so Kyla, do you think desire for casual sex is just driven by social influences?
No, I would say it's probably a mixture of high sex drive and like desire for sexuality in general, wanting to put your penis in things, right? Probably it's also a bit of a manifestation of searching for intimacy. And then there's also status.
Do you think you don't think there's a strong biological component to that?
I don't think it's stronger than the socialized stuff. No,
okay,
not for casual sex. For sex in general, sure, but casual sex, you don't need casual sex to have sex. Okay, right? So you can get into a monogamous relationship, and actually, most monogamous people have more sex than casual.
So this is how I would respond to that. If you look back to the medieval era, before we had a culture of casual sex, all the nobles and kings who were in a position to be promiscuous were. Every man in history in a position of power and status had lots of partners. So there's some cultural component to this, I will agree, but we can't ignore the nature part of this equation, which is huge, which is if it wasn't for that, then this would be only a modern phenomenon and not a phenomenon of all of human history of any man in power having countless partners. Even if you go back to the cave era, the guy who was in charge of like the fucking cave, he was fucking all the cave women. Like this is just so inherent in our biology. You cannot ignore that component of it.
Yes. Do you not think that hierarchies are biological? Status is biological. Hierarchies are fundamentally biological. This is why, for example, if you're at the top of the pecking order, you have less cortisol, you put on body fat in a healthier way, and you live a longer life. Status is deeply biological. We socially determine what gives you status, but status and the pursuit of it is a fundamental human drive.
Yeah, but
I don't deny that status. I mean, that's classic marketing, right? Yeah, so marketing is all about appealing to status.
If 17,000 women want your balls, you are more value in that society than a dude who nobody wants.
No. That's where I gotta stop you right there. Again, what comes first? It's not the women liking you that gave you the status. It's the status that got you the women liking you. The status got you the groupies. And hold on, I'm going to give you 2 examples that support what me and Kev was trying to say about a 9 is just hot and it's that simple. You don't need to put anything extra on that. Now, let's say a guy has money, has wealth, has status, blah, 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 and has this monogamous relationship you're talking about. That guy will step out on his wife, right, in the cover of night, have his driver's assistant take him somewhere secluded and special, where he'll pay to have a 10 rock his world. Nobody knows that he's with this 10. He has to keep it hush-hush because he's married, and he's paying good money to be with that 10. Why? It's real simple, because she's a 10. She's super hot, she's flawless physically, and that's why he's there. There are also guys who are not in a position to be high status, and they'll just save their money, renew their passport, and they'll take their invisible ass to Brazil or DR or Mexico or Colombia, and they will either pay or just use their Western advantage to sleep with women that are way hotter than the women that they can get in the States. Now, again,
shout out to QB.
Didn't change. Their status didn't change, right? Their status didn't change, but they were willing to change their environment to be with an 8, 9, or a 10. Had nothing to do with status. I think you got to understand that when it comes to sex, sometimes men are that simple, but then also sometimes we are that complicated. When it comes to sexuality, we do have a spectrum as well, just like women. Sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah, I would just add
what you're describing as validation and value is just status. The only reason validation is enjoyable is because it assures you that deep down you are valid. Status is just a social expression of your validity. This is why, for example, higher status people are generally more respected. We listen to them more. We weigh their opinion a fair bit more. This is why, for example, like we confer status in so many ways. Status is just a social expression of your validity.
Yeah, status is important. I agree with you. There's status is biological, but that king who's having sex with 20 different mistresses, he doesn't need status. He's already viewed as a god by all the people. He cannot climb further on the status hierarchy because he's already at the top. So there's got to be something else that's driving him to have sex with those 20 different concubines.
Yeah, they're hot.
What do you think of their king if their king was known to constantly be chasing women and being rejected all the time and viewed as a sexless virgin?
He's the king.
Exactly. Exactly. Because his status confirms his internal validation.
Yeah,
the king, by this logic, though, the king doesn't need a crown. He's already on top. He doesn't need it.
What?
Why would he have a crown? He's already on top. He's already got the status.
He didn't have
doesn't matter. This stuff that you're describing, you're trying to say one precedes the other, and I'm telling you, it's all cyclical. They feed into each other.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Because as you gain higher status, you have more proof that you're valid, and as you have more proof externally that you're valid, more people will buy in, conferring you more status. This is how you climb the hierarchy. These things are all cyclical.
Listen. Additional status. He can literally be he can literally jerk off all day and he is still viewed as a demigod. He's already at.
And why does he have a crown?
Why does he have a crown? Because I don't know, because his ancestors, it's like a cultural thing. His ancestors wore a crown, but there were some kings that were like less degenerates and some kings that were more degenerate. but the vast majority of men in positions of power throughout human history have always had, a bunch of sexual partners. I think to simplify it and just say, well, they were just doing it for the status is an insane oversimplification. I think there's another component there.
Exactly.
And this like innate desire that men have to spread their seed or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
I already agreed to that.
Yeah,
I already agreed to that. I already agreed to that.
Nothing to do with each
Wait,
other.
okay. I am claiming that status and validation are inherently cyclical. The kings who couldn't get women, who were sickly and weak and losers, were killed. They were taken over by a higher status male. The crown isn't what matters. It's his status that mattered, which is something that he climbed and achieved.
Which king?
So you think he was being overthrown just because some dude was sleeping with a bunch of women?
Kings didn't achieve anything. They were given everything. They were won. They won the genetic.
Then why, when kings were weak, when they couldn't have a wife, oftentimes they were gay in this case, and men who choose not to pursue a wife, why were they often usurped and assassinated?
Listen, any king is going to get usurped. We don't care if you're with 20 women.
Hold on, that's a complete weasel of my question. That is false. No, not any king gets usurped. Weak loser kings got usurped.
Exactly.
Kings
and that has
who were not
to do with
strong
how much
enough.
women he's sleeping with. I don't understand.
There were tons of weak kings that did not get usurped.
Yeah, I think
that's what I'm saying.
There's a lot less than weak kings
who did get usurped. There's a lot of weak kings who are having a lot of sex too. There's a lot of weak kings.
Exactly. I don't
know if there's any correlation there. I'm not saying.
Why are you so invested in this point? Why are you so invested in this status versus casual sex thing?
Because if we can't be honest,
it's a personal gripe of yours.
No, why are you making it personal now about me? And why would I fucking care?
We've been talking about this the entire time. So why is this?
Yes, because this is the main bone of contention. This is the main bone of
why?
contention. That's why it's circling. Because you guys are basically arguing that status isn't a fundamental piece of pursuing sex and hot women for men.
Not.
And I don't really know what to do. Because sex is clearly not about sex. That's what I'm saying. For most men, sex isn't about sex. It's a manifestation of other things. It's about validation. It is about like desirability. It is about intimacy. It is very rarely just about sex. Because if it was just about nutting, masturbation, or paying for box would be sufficient. And it's not.
It doesn't scratch the same itch.
Hold on. Give me a second here, Alex. Because I don't even know why we're going here. I don't even know what's the importance of this, but I'm sorry. We're going to have to call bullshit on this.
Because we need to tell young men that they're valid despite the fact that they don't have sex. That's why. But go ahead.
Give me a minute here. Number one, it is just sex. Guys just want to get laid. And they will take it any way that they can get it. The guys who are picky about who they sleep with and under what circumstances are the guys that have options. Those are the guys that can say, nah, I don't sleep with fat girls. I don't sleep with married women. I don't sleep with this. I don't sleep with that. Those are guys that have options that can say that. Guys that only have one way to get sex, guess what? They're going to have sex that one way. Guys that can't have sex at all, they might masturbate. Guys that have to pay for it, they might pay for it. Guys that might have to be in the friend zone, they'll be in the friend zone. Whatever guys got to do, they'll do. Now, none of those things necessarily need to have any association with status. And I will prove that by just saying one simple thing that I know we all can agree on. Majority of the guys who want to get laid, which is all guys that are straight, that can't get laid because there's some variation of a loser. Well, let me tell you what most losers have in common. A lack of desire, a lack of tenacity, a lack of ambition, a lack of effort. Well, let me tell you a secret. No one raises to high status with those traits. Nobody that's weak, lazy, avoids confrontation, avoids risk, avoids challenges, that's timid, that's afraid, lacks confidence, has no desire, no motivation. Those people are never going to become successful. But yet, those guys still want to have sex. So I don't understand why you keep putting desire for sex, whether casually or monogamously, in the same conversation as status, when they have no binding glue. There are plenty of dudes out here that couldn't care less about status, but could only think about and care about getting laid. So how is that possible if what you're saying is true?
I think this comment actually cuts to the crux of it. And I think it supports my point really well. And let's just do a poll.
It really doesn't, but go off.
Okay. All the guys in the chat, you have a choice between having sex with a hot girl that no one finds attractive but you. She's your type, but no one else finds her attractive. Or a girl that all of society finds way more attractive, a more conventionally attractive girl, but you don't find her as attractive. Which one would you pick?
Exactly.
The first one.
Exactly.
This doesn't prove your guys' point at all. I've already told you that validation and status are both intrinsic and extrinsic. Like I've already made this assertion.
Hold on. With women, and I had to make this point sometime before because I was thinking about like all my experiences growing up with the guys, with the fellas, and I remember there was one time that my Dominican friend said something. He was visiting here in Miami. He was sleeping with baddies left and right. Every day he'd meet a new baddie. And I remember one time I was giving him shit about a particular girl. And he said something to me, as simple as it was, it wraps up that comment and what Kev just said. He said, listen, let me tell you something, nigga. He said, as long as I like her, I don't care what anybody else thinks. And that was so simple, but it was so true. Guys don't give a shit what the next man thinks if they like the girl. If a guy likes a chick, he's attracted to her. He doesn't care what his friends have to say. Whereas women are the complete opposite. Women will like a guy until they tell their friends about him, show their friends pictures or whatever. Their friends are like, he's. Now all of a sudden her feelings for this guy change. Now she's not that interested anymore. So I think what you're saying pertains more to females. Females care about how many girls a guy's been with, how they view his status and all this other shit, care about the attractiveness to other people who they're sleeping with. That's all female shit. Guys don't give a shit about what the next guy thinks about their dick. I'm telling you right now, guys do not care what other people think about where they put their dick.
That is such a code. This is why every guy lies about his dick length. He lies about his height. And if he didn't care what other dudes thought about his dick, then nobody would be making fun of the sexless virgin.
No, those are women.
Because the sexless virgin would be like, whatever, I just chose self-control.
He cares what women think because he wants to sleep with them.
It's not women making fun of sexless virgins. It's usually dudes, right? When you're in the locker room.
But the women are the one not sleeping with him, though.
And a guy is 27.
There's a lot of women that make fun of sexless dudes.
Yeah.
But come on. Hold on. Can I just respond super quickly? Can I respond?
If a guy's getting laid, right? If a guy's getting laid and his boys don't believe him, they don't want to smell his finger, does he really care? If he knows he's getting laid, does he really care?
Yes, because the fact that he's getting laid offers him internal validation. However, if a guy is a sexless virgin, let's be honest, the other dudes are making fun of him and don't respect him as much.
That's not why he's upset. He's upset because he's a virgin. He's not upset because they're making fun of him for being a virgin. That's the difference.
Why would he care? Why would he care? I thought he doesn't care what other people think about his dick. So if he's chosen to be a virgin, for example, why would that matter?
No, you didn't hear what I said. I said he doesn't care about what the other people think. He cares that he is indeed a virgin. That's why it hurts him when they make fun of him. Just like if someone's overweight, if someone's obese, what they're upset about is not that people are making fun of them for being fat. What they're upset about is that they actually are fat. Okay?
This is so devoid from reality now. Are you now trying to just argue that nobody cares what other people say about them? Because that is just like definitively not true. And if we break out of this like loop that we've gotten into, of course people care what other people say about them. Of course they do.
Let me stop you right there before I miss the point.
Simplify this really quickly for both.
You see when people get triggered? When people get triggered when you say something, you know why they're triggered? Because it's true.
Not necessarily. For example, the anorexic girl, you're going to call her fat, for example. She's not fat. She's going to care what everyone says about her regardless, right? People, of course,
that's not a normal person. That's a person with a condition.
Okay, I'm sorry. So only mentally ill people care about what other people say about them?
No.
And why would you even tell your guys about having sex? Why would you even brag about anything about you? Why do we care about these? Why do we care about social media in and of itself? Wait. Social media proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that everyone gives all of the fucks about what other people say about them. That is why people kill themselves when they run into social media scandals and all their popularity goes away. Absolutely. That is why people think you're more cool if you have 1.5 million people.
That's again female thinking. You're again
it's not.
Female
Men,
lens on it.
No, that is insane.
Let me stop you right now.
That is insane.
Hold on, let me stop you because men don't fucking kill themselves because they didn't get enough likes on Instagram. Men
You're right. They kill themselves because they lose their job and they lose their status. That's why they kill themselves. They kill themselves because women won't validate them and they're incels and they're losers and nobody cares about them. Men kill themselves over status just as often. All the fucking time. That's why retirees and young, rejected, sexless men are the most likely group to kill themselves. That is why. Because status fucking matters.
Let me stop you again, because if that was the case, then rich people wouldn't kill themselves. And there are plenty of rich, wealthy men that kill themselves. So it's not just the status, okay? It's their.
Of course, it's not just the status.
It's the human experience that they're having with other people.
Of course,
right?
but status is part of this. I'm not even trying to turn this down. You're just trying to say sex has nothing to do with status, which isn't true.
Let me explain the fundamental problem that you're having here. Why we're not agreeing. You're thinking that guys are having sex in pursuit of status. When it's reversed.
I said status, intimacy. Status, intimacy, pleasure, and validation. I said all four of these things.
Stop cutting me
you
off.
said,
Men
and I wrote it down, sex is just clearly sex. Those are the two sides. Do not misrepresent me. I have said 4 factors about what sex is. You have said sex is just sex, which is fucking wrong. That's what's happening right now.
I said sometimes it's just that simple. Sometimes it's way more complicated. You're doing a
sure,
terrible job
and I've
of quoting
granted
me.
you that. There are some people who dislike sex for sport. I've already said that.
Anyway, back to the point that you keep cutting off. You are fundamentally saying that men pursue sexual partners to increase their status. And what I'm trying to inform you of is that it's the reverse. Men pursue status to get more sexual partners. That's what you're mixing up here. You're putting way too much emphasis on what men are doing for status, when really what it is men can do those things because they already have the status. So I don't know why you insist on thinking that you know men better than we do.
Because the body count is proof of your status. You're literally just reinforcing what I'm saying. Because men have to pursue self-improvement to have sex. So if they have a body count, it proves to everyone around them that they're a man of value. If you're a guy and you sit down, you can't sit down and tell your bros, look, I swear I have value. I make 100K. I've got a nice car. If you sit down with your bros and you're like, yeah, but I fucked 40 chicks, all the dudes know you're valid. It's done.
Actually, wrong. I know plenty of guys that have been with far more women than them. I know guys that have been with fucking damn near 100 times as many women as them, and they still have far more status than me. So I don't know what you are talking about. When I'm dealing with people that own multiple businesses, are clearing $1 million fucking dollars in a year or more, I don't give a shit how many women I've been with. They have more status than me.
I'm gonna check the room. Has anyone here said that all that matters for status is sex? I don't know who said that in this room, because I know I sure shit didn't say all status is sex. So I don't know.
We're going in a circle, and here's why. I want to explain why we're going in a circle. Okay, so Erudite, you're saying that the main driving motivator for men to have casual sex is status. Is that correct?
No,
that's the main motivator, not the only one. Just the main one.
Well, that's what we're getting from you.
That's because you're not listening to me.
That's where I'm kind of confused. No, we're listening to you.
People are getting
hold on. Every one of you is coping about this. Because when I said sex is about status, you all said absolutely not. I didn't say it's the only thing that matters, but I said it's very important. I didn't rank order
when something is. Hold on. When you say something, sex is about status, that's a blanket statement. We assume when you say that you're saying that's the only thing.
Sure, and then you guys, hold the fuck on. Play it back, because then you asked me to clarify it, and I said, no, of course it's about 4 things. Yes, I did this. No, hold on. You guys said, are you saying it's just about status? And I said, no, it's also about pleasure. It's also about intimacy. It's also about validation.
No, Kyle, we just assumed, okay, the way I interpreted it is that you thought that status was yes, there's other components, but you thought that status was the most important of those components. That's how I personally interpreted it. Is that correct interpretation, or is that not correct interpretation?
The only reason that you got that implication is because you guys are rejecting sex is about status almost wholly. I don't think Alex or Kevin are fully rejecting, because Kevin has said that it is a bit about status, but you guys have said it's mostly biological. And the most important thing that I have said is that casual sex doesn't seem to be solving all 4 of these issues for men, because all 4 of these could be achieved through one partner. The only reason you would want more than one partner is because of some level of status and validation that it confers you, or you're the unique type of person where sex, of course there's exceptions, and of course I'm making generalizations. Pickup artists do this all the time. They say women are like this, men are like this. I'm making generalizations.
And it doesn't make them right. Doesn't make them right.
Yes, it does, because you can listen to a fucking norm and realize that there's caveats to it.
But unless
that's the norm. That's my point. That's
biological.
Not the norm.
The norm is that most men are looking for a partner. to do in life. But some men are also just looking for tons of variety in sex because sex is more of like a sport. It's not a like deeply emotional experience. But most men are pursuing sex.
You're overthinking it.
Wait,
No.
here's the
the men are doing that much thinking. They're not. They're thinking, I'm horny. I want to hook up. They're thinking, she's hot. I'd like to sleep with her. They're thinking, damn, I'm all alone. I've been off of work for 2 hours now. Wish I had a girl to poke on. It's not that much thought going into it, sis.
So just because there isn't a ton of conscious thought doesn't mean that we can't do a deeper analysis of what's driving the societal norm, for example. For example, the anorexic chick is just thinking, I'm fat, but there's a lot more going on there, right? It's a fractal.
Anorexic chicks.
It's just a relative example.
Should I talk?
Alex, go ahead.
I think the crux of the disagreement lies in whether there's a biological component in men to be promiscuous and have casual sex. And I think, Kyla, you're saying that that's largely cultural or status seeking. And we're saying, no, yes, maybe there's a cultural component. Yes, there's maybe a status component, but the predominant force that's forcing men to be promiscuous and have casual sex is biological. I think that's the crux of the disagreement.
No, it is not. Which is just showing me again that nobody's actually listening to me in this conversation, or something else is going on. It is possible that I'm a very bad communicator exclusively. That could be the cause of the problem. But every time you guys recharacterize my statement, I have written down statements you have said and I have said, and you guys regularly wrongly report what I have said to you. But then I can read back your quotes verbatim.
It's easy to communicate with yes men.
Tell me what was wrong in what I said. Just clarify that.
So what you just said, now that we've derailed a little bit, I'll also say I'm 4v1ing with an ear infection too. So
I thought it was going to be more of like a me and Kevin and Prince would be down the middle. I didn't expect it to be a 4-on-1, to be fair.
So what I am saying,
I will say definitely Ayendei is a little bit.
Let her talk. Let her address.
So I am not making a biological or social construction argument for why men are doing casual sex. All I am saying, what I would actually bite the bullet on, is probably the reason that they want to have lots of casual sex, or just in general, lots of sex, is biological. Men tend to have a really high sex drive, and they want to, like, you know, if you even want to do like super evo psych, they would have a motivation to spread their seed as far and as wide as it can go. What I'm arguing is that socially we constructed a norm where men didn't go around and have casual sex, and neither did women. We did something like a form of forced monogamy. Now, I think in general that seemed to be pretty bad for society, because I had a bunch of women on SSRIs and getting lobotomies because they fucking hated their lives, and men who were just like, probably need lobotomies too. It didn't seem to work out super, super great. But now we've switched to basically arguing that not only can men, do they want casual sex, but they need it, and it's an essential step of growing up, right? They can't know to settle down with a woman until they've had that casual sex. That was an argument made by Prince and by Ayendei. And what I'm arguing is that that is a social script, and it isn't seeming to make people happy. It's not leading to better fulfillment, and it's not true.
Hold on. I know, I'm gonna let you go, Prince. I know that both me and Prince are talking from personal experience. We're talking about how we feel in this situation. What made us come to say, you know what, now I want a girlfriend? And it comes from getting that curiosity out of your system. Now, most guys cannot get through that phase because they're not getting the girls like that. They're not having that success with women, so they're stuck on square one. They're still in the same spot. Whereas a guy who's dated multiple girls or had casual flings or whatever, he is going to get to that place in his life faster. Now, there's certain guys that they have a hard time getting laid. So what happens is they finally get laid, and now they make that girl their girlfriend. Well, that's out of necessity. That's out of scarcity that they're making that their girlfriend. It's not out of choice. But there are good-looking guys who could still be out there playing the field, but they decided to remove themselves from the game because they're hanging up their jersey. They're retiring their number. Well, guess what? You had to play the sport in order to retire from the sport. You can't have never played Little League and be like, y'all retired from football. Bitch, you never played football. So that's what we're trying to say. I think you are still looking at men and women like somehow it's so similar. We're not influenced the same. Society, social media, all this shit influences women far more than guys. It might seem like guys are influenced by these forces when really what it is guys are influenced by one force. Guess what it is? pussy. So when pussy is following Instagram, we follow Instagram by default because we're following the pussy. And pussy is going in the direction of Hollywood, in the direction of Instagram, in the direction of TikTok, in the direction of the Lamborghini. So we're going wherever the girls are. We don't go to clubs and pay $16 for a fucking 50 cents drink because the bartender is an expert. We pay that for a drink because the women are in that club. That's why we waited in line. That's why we paid for it. And when the status increases, that's why we get a table and buy a bottle. Not because we like throwing our money away, but because we like getting inside vagina. So I think you need to understand that society isn't the influence on us when it comes to sexuality. Women are the influence on us. So if women are down with the casual sex thing, that's where the guys are going to go. If the women are on Tinder, that's where the guys are going to go. If the women are saying you need to marry me before you have sex with me, guess what men are going to do? They're going to go back to getting married to have sex.
Exactly.
It's very strange that you tell me that I'm. Why are you telling me that I'm essentializing men? And then your next statement ends, men are just pursuing pussy. What matters to us, none of the rest of it matters. We just like vagina. So if anyone is essentializing the motivations of sexuality for men, it's you.
I would say I partially
really
agree with you, Ayendei, on that, because I do think it's not as simple as that. I do think that like validation and social forces do drive men to some extent. I will concede. I do think that pussy is the predominant force, but I don't think it's the only force. I think the social forces do drive men, and it kind of depends on the men. For some men, like for a guy who's like kind of accomplished a lot, like not to brag, but like for me, it is like I don't need the validation. For me, pussy is the driving force. But for a guy who's maybe like kind of coming up, to them, the validation is more important than actually getting laid. So I do think it kind of varies on the guy. So I do think that's a little bit of an oversimplistic way of saying it.
Can I ask you a question, Kyla? If you agree or disagree with the statement, men need to know they're attractive to women in order to be authentic in their monogamous relationships. Otherwise, it's cope.
Men need to be attractive to women to be authentic in their monogamous relationship. Otherwise, it's cope. I would say culturally, that is broadly true, and it's a problem because that is socialized. It's not essentialist.
Okay, whether it is or not, it's the reality is still that's how men feel, and so
Yeah,
that's
I've never disagreed about the descriptive landscape, except for when everyone is coping about like status and stuff like that. But I've never disagreed that the landscape that we exist in is how it is. What I'm talking about is a prescription for a better future, right? So what I'm saying is the fact that men need to basically say, I am a valid human being is dominantly tied to basically, am I a pussy haver, is probably an issue because a lot of times for men, when they're pursuing pussy, it is a manifestation of something else that they're pursuing. And I argued the other things that they're typically pursuing in their search of pussy is a mixture of intimacy, status, and validation, because we don't like the idea that status and validation are the same thing.
That's not always the case, though.
And pleasure. Sorry, and pleasure.
Sometimes it's just a simple urge. Sometimes you're trying to eat a meal because you need essential vitamins and minerals in your system. You might need some of this, you might need some of that. Sometimes you're just hungry. So I agree and disagree at the same time. I'm not saying that sex isn't all the things you're talking about. What I'm saying is it's not always all the things you're talking about.
Sure. And when sex is just a biological urge, yeah, and sometimes when it's just that, I would say self-control is most important there, because just because somebody's hungry, it doesn't mean you should eat. That's why we have an obesity epidemic. Just because you feel a biological itch for something doesn't mean you participate.
But who's the arbiter of that? Who's the arbiter of when enough is enough? Who's an arbiter of when you should control yourself and when you should indulge yourself? And also,
society.
Who is the victim?
And yourself.
Because, hold on. Who is the victim? Because there's been plenty of experiences I've had just in being myself where I've had casual relationships with women and they've enjoyed it just as much, if not more than me. That's what was on the menu. If I go visit another country, it's not like we're going to get engaged or get married or something, but we can make the best out of that weekend. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So who's to say I was supposed to forego that? Who's to say, oh, no, I should have used my self-control. I should not.
I'm not saying don't have your cake. I'm saying don't always eat cake because you're going to get fat. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you're preaching to the choir because I believe that guys should be doing.
I know, but what I'm saying is, not you. This is why it's so weird that we have a contention. Is I'm not even saying that Ayendei is selling to young men casual sex. I am saying pop culture is selling to young men and women that casual sex will make them happy. And what I'm telling young people is, it probably won't. For some of you, it might actually just make you happy, and that's great. But for most people, it's never just sex, and it's never just simple. This is why most people, for example, this is why Destiny, who's in an open marriage, has a lot of issues, because a lot of times sex isn't just sex, and it's really hard to find partners, even partners who agree that sex is just going to be sex, to actually let sex just be sex.
Yeah, but that's
speaking of Destiny, I think you would jump on in like 5 minutes.
That's women, I think, need to have a paradigm shift in that department. I don't think anybody needs to suggest to men that, hey, you might enjoy casual sex. Hey, casual sex might be fun. Casual sex might make you happy. Nobody needs to sell that or advertise that.
Hey, there he is. The podcast has officially begun.
I'm here for like 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, I got fucking sleep to do.
What are your thoughts?
Where are we at? Catch me up. What's going on?
I thought
somebody said Erudite was screaming. That's what I heard.
I was screaming.
It was getting
okay. So
you running on an ear infection.
Kyler, if you could explain, because every time we tried to explain, you kind of disagreed with our position of what we think you think. So if you could explain to Destiny, I think that'd be better.
So basically, there's a couple of contentions. Number one, I'm arguing that sex isn't just about sex for almost all people. For most people, it's a mixture of a search of intimacy, of validation, or of status. And I've also argued that validation and status are intrinsically linked, because typically status is just the social expression of basically saying you are valid. I've also argued that we are peddling casual sex to young people like it's going to be a solution to their happiness, that they will enjoy it, when in reality, most people around 25 to 28 transition out of casual dating and casual sex and are usually more unhappy. They oftentimes didn't super enjoy it, and they come out a little bit more broken. And I think it's a problem that we're peddling to young people that casual sex is what's going to make you happy, even if for young men, it might satisfy the biological itch just to fuck.
And what's the counter argument?
I think go ahead, Ayendei. I'll let you explain.
Well, all right. Well, at least my counter argument is that I don't believe that society is selling anything to men in the realm of casual sex, monogamy, whatever. I don't think society's even speaking to young men at all about that. They're basically saying, go play with yourself, because that's what you're entitled to yourself. Go enjoy that. I think women are the ones that, if anybody, they're encouraging to go out and have these casual affairs and so on and so forth. As for her saying that sex is more than just sex, I think that's maybe on the female side, sex is always going to be more than just sex. For guys, it could be a range. For some guys, in some particular phase of their life, it can very well just be sex, and that's it. There are also guys that there's a lot of other factors involved also. It can vary as to what's going on with that. But to make that blanket statement that sex is always about more for everyone, absolutely not. There's even some women that are convinced that it's just sex. I don't agree with that. I think women are always going to have some type of emotional attachment to it. And any woman that can say that and believe it, she's just already done too much of it. She's already that far gone that she's no longer making that conscious emotional connection with it.
Gotcha.
But you bit the bullet and agreed that, for example, that having casual sex or being promiscuous is a biological driver in men, right? That's correct?
Who is this toward?
Kyla, Erudite.
Sorry, I'm on Twitch, so I'm just quickly giving our new friend a new face. What was your question?
You bit the bullet earlier, and you said that you will agree that being promiscuous is a biological driver in men.
I said wanting to have sex. Yeah, I wouldn't say promiscuous necessarily. I said sex wanting is a biological
casual
driver.
Sex. We're specifically talking about casual sex, like having sex with more than one person.
I didn't. I think I actually agreed with that. Like, I bit the bullet of like Evo psych. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, it kind of sounds like you. It sounds like you guys are talking about two different things. It sounds like when Kyla is talking about sex is more than just sex. She doesn't necessarily mean that it's like this holistic, emotional, love, romantic experience with another person when you're having sex. She's talking about kind of like the meta of all the stuff that's around sex. And it sounds like when Authentic is talking about like, is sex just sex? You're talking about just like, what are the emotions or experiences of the people like as they're having sex? It sounds like you guys are talking about two totally different things. That's what it feels like.
To some extent, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so like when Authentic is saying that like sex is just sex, in Kyla's world, he's not really saying sex is just sex. Like sex obviously represents a whole bunch of things. It represents status as a man. It could represent like ability to like, there's a whole bunch of things that go on. But like in terms of just the act itself, Authentic would probably say, well, a guy can just fuck and like that's all he's thinking about is like having sex. And I don't think Kyla would disagree with that. But I think she's talking about like the meta level of like, well, men that pursue sex and get sex a lot, like there's a type of validation that goes on there that you might not be thinking about while you're fucking, but there like certainly is. Like if you're a guy and you can say like, oh, well, I had a threesome last night, or you enter like a party with like 3 like really hot chicks hanging off your arm, or you've like fucked like 100 girls, like that's like a level of validation. You might not be thinking about it during sex, but like it definitely exists for most guys, right?
Yeah,
no, definitely. I think we're talking about more the main motivation. So like,
exactly.
What we're saying is the main motivation for having casual sex is that we want pussy. We don't deny that status is definitely a part of it. And Kyla, again, I apologize if I'm misrepresenting you, but all of us, our perception of your position was that yes, there's that biological urge to have casual sex, but a bigger motivator of it is to get status, and we disagree with that.
Yeah, the analogy, kind of the hypothetical that Kyla posed was that, okay, most guys, if they're given the choice between having sex with a 5 who's amazing at sex or a 9 who's bad at sex, would pick the 9, right? And we all agree, yes, I do think pretty much every single one of us would pick the 9, with a potential exception of Destiny, I think, on that, right? Where do you stand on that, Destiny? Which one?
I definitely go with the 5 every time.
Yeah, I had a feeling you would say that. But I think most guys, most guys would pick the 9. And Kyla was making the argument that means the reason they would pick that 9 is it's not just about sex, it's about status. But the counter argument that I was making, and I think Ayendei was making, is that no, it's not just about the status. That could be a part of it. But I think if those same rules were applied, but you can never tell your friends about the 9, all those guys would still pick the 9, because it more has to do with the fact that it's just like something about being with a hot girl just makes you internally happy. And it's not just the status. It's just like this desire, this like kind of like biological desire you have to replicate with attractive women.
This is kind of like suicide. When somebody kills themselves, there's not just like one reason for it. Even if there literally is one reason for it, even if like somebody bullies somebody till they kill themselves, that's still not the only reason they do it, because to even be in a position to commit suicide is going to be like a really complicated thing, right? So it's hard to figure out like what is the drive to like have sex. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be one thing, but when I feel like if you were locked on an island with a whole bunch of people that you could fuck, but nobody would know who you ever fucked at all, my gut feeling is that men would engage with sex a lot differently. This is a weird thing I have. I could be wrong. This is really hard to prove, because a lot of this is just going to go like anecdotally or like based off of like what you hear people say or how people engage with sex. But the feeling that I get sometimes when I talk to guys, I had this experience. You guys all have heard like the Fresh and Fit podcast, right?
You're speaking with a guy who actually created the whole format for the podcast.
Okay, shit. Well, I'm not trying to step on any toes, but like I had a mind-blowing experience when I was on that podcast. Okay, so I'm a horny motherfucker. I love sex. I love fucking people. It's super fun. It's like one of my main hobbies. Okay, I was on a podcast with these guys, and there's like 10 or 15 people in this room, and one of the girls or one of the guys asked, they were like, "What makes for good pussy?" And they were saying like, "What makes for good sex?" And we ran around the entire room, and not a single person had an answer. Not one person had an answer for like what makes it. Like a couple people said like, well, when they're hot or whatever, but like that was it. No. And when I was in a room full of people that are like supposed to all be like horny motherfuckers, like super into sex or whatever, and nobody answers, it makes me feel like they're not really engaging with sex in a way like, I really want to have sex. I want to like get off really well, have it like bust a sick nut. I want to have the best time ever. It's more just like, I need to fuck people because I'm like signaling to other people that this is like doing something for me. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes, but maybe not for everybody. It's just hard to say, but
I do think it depends on the guy. Like for some guys, I do think there's a huge validation component and a huge social status component. And for other guys, I think it's a very minimal component. So I do think it's like person dependent.
Like here's a question that I would have. Or sorry, go ahead.
I guess one thing I would clarify. So in this, what I basically talked about is like, if you're choosing the 9, even if you're in a whole vacuum, it's because to some extent we've socialized men to believe that essentially if a woman who is a 9 in your worldview is willing to say yes to you, it confers to you to some extent that you are valid, because it's telling you that a woman who is of such high quality in your view wants your nuts, even if nobody else knows. It's kind of like having like a gun, like hidden carrying, right? Like even if nobody else knows, you can kind of like have that confidence, which in my view is still to some extent connected to status. Because if the woman was not viewed as attractive and as a status symbol because she's attractive, you probably wouldn't care that much. You'd probably prefer the really good sex.
Would you agree that men are very visually stimulated, Kyla?
Sure.
Okay, so that's part of the reason that we, a lot of us here would choose the 9 over the 5, even though she's worse at sex technically, is because so much of the part that turns us on is that visual aspect. So the fact that like we're looking at the 9 and she's like, God damn, she is so hot. Like, even though she's not doing these like monkey double backflips on your cock, like it's still like an amazing, awesome experience.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's what we're trying to say.
And generally speaking,
worse at sex, right? A lot of guys can really just get their nut off of anything. They're not really caring that much. They only last mostly 60 seconds. So it's not really that.
Here's like a question that I have. I'm super curious because like there have been girls that I've hooked up with before where I've gone home at the end of the night and I was like, this wasn't worth it. I should have just fucking jerked off and done work. Like, this is a waste of my fucking time. Do you ever feel that way? Or is it like always like, as long as the girl's hot, even if the sex sucks, but you get off, it's like, is it worthwhile? Or
that's why I changed
when I had
my
those
criteria.
experiences, it's usually when the girl wasn't that hot.
Yeah,
If it was like Tinder and I was like, damn, she was hotter in her pictures. Shit, I feel. I'm gonna do my walk of shame now.
It is a hot girl, fat ass, nice titties. Shit, I'm gonna still be happy.
This is so like if I'm being like ultra like the most honest I can ever be, there are definitely girls that I fucked, and because I'm an internet famous person, I can obviously punch way above my pay grade. There are girls that I fucked and like it's been a disappointing experience, and like I've had the thought like it might be a really hot girl, and this might just be the way that I'm wired, but if it's a really hot person, usually the only thing I'm thinking in my head is like, man, if people found out about this, I would look really good. Like that's literally it. But I don't know if it's going to like making the actual experience better for me. But I might just not be like as visually wired like that. Like if it's a disappointing lay, it's a disappointing lay. Like your dick can only go into a pussy so many times with them just laying there doing nothing. Where it's like, okay, I guess they look hot, but like, I mean, porn looks hot. Is it that much different if the girl's not really doing anything? This is an honest question. For some people, yeah.
I would say there's a massive difference between porn and the girl just kind of being a lame lay. Yeah, I would definitely pick the lame lay for sure than jerking off to porn. But like the analogy I was giving earlier is like, okay, I was asking the guys in the chat, you have a choice. One is picking a girl that you find attractive, but maybe the rest of society doesn't find attractive. Like maybe you just have a really weird type that no one else finds attractive besides you. Or 2, picking a girl that society finds attractive, but you think is like average. Which will you pick? I think every single guy on this panel picked the girl that they personally find attractive, which to me suggests that like the validation part, while there, is not as important as some other component, some biological component.
Alex, I've already been through that with Alex, because there was a chick that I was trying to send to go on the show, and Alex was like, "Yeah, I don't think she's that hot. Can we? Don't obviously don't say who the person is, Alex. Yeah. But when Alex said that to me, right, I instantly couldn't care less about Alex's taste because I thought that she was fucking hot. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, well, listen, if she lets me. I don't give a shit that Alex thinks that she's what did you think she was, like average?
I don't know, like a 5 or something.
Yeah, he said like a 5. I think she's like a 8.5, maybe a 9. He said 5, right? So I don't care. I don't care that Alex doesn't agree with me on that one. Yeah. If she was willing, I'd be there. Put it like that, right?
I have a similar experience too. So back in the day, I used to record a lot of infield for pickup stuff, right? So the girls that were generally hotter that guys would click on, that guys wanted to see, weren't necessarily girls that I wanted, and I would end up still going after the girls that I naturally wanted and just record those other girls for infield purposes.
Exactly.
It happens a lot.
We don't care.
Here's a question. I'm kind of curious. Let's say that you had 12 weeks in front of you. Let's say that you could be guaranteed one new girl a week that you could fuck like 1 to 4 times for 12 weeks, or you could get one girl, the same girl, for 12 weeks.
Depends where you are in your life. Depends on where you are in your life. When I was younger, I would have went for the variety.
Mm-hmm. Let's say it's not like dating.
Mature,
this is still like a casual sex thing. So it's going to be 12 weeks.
No.
Yeah. Would you?
I don't even think in those terms. So you don't even have to say that. You don't have to preference it with that. I don't think in those terms. So there was a time when I would have preferred to just be with a different chick every time. And then there was times when I was like, listen, this is where it's at. I'm going to hit this chick up. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I'm done doing what I'm doing, she's done doing what she's doing. I'm trying to see this particular chick. Now, you can always do the second string and the third string. You know how it is, guys. When you have options, it doesn't necessarily mean you have total access every time. Like the girl could be down, whatever, but she's out with her friend, she's doing something else, and you end up, pulling something off the bench. You end up doing something else that you don't like as much as the girl that was busy. You see what I mean?
Yeah, my question then is why, when you were younger and you said, well, there have been a time where I would have wanted a new chick every week. If it's still, if sex is sex and you could sex one girl like for 12 weeks or 12 different girls every other week or every week, like why would you opt for the more girls? What would be the
first decade of my sexual career, it was all about learning for me. That's what I was interested in. I was interested in conquering and learning. And I had the thought process of every chick, there needs to be something that I learned from her. And if there wasn't, then it was almost a waste of my time. Almost. It wasn't a full waste of my time because I was still young and I was spray happy. But what I was really looking for was learning so that I could take that experience and rock some high value chicks world. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for the most beautiful chicks I could get, but I was also trying to make the most of the impact on them. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to dominate. I'm looking for that residual effect. So that's what I'm saying. I think guys vary in what they want and what they're looking for. Because I knew guys that they would sleep with a hot chick once, maybe twice, and they would keep it moving. And it would confuse me. I'm like, yo, why you don't mess with this? You're like, nah, man, I hit that already.
Yo, for the chat, if you guys think I'm lying about texting Hormaxer, here is the screenshot. Yo, we're doing another panel tonight. My channel, you want to
hope he comes on. That'd be really entertaining.
I mean, if Destiny's up for it, I'll have him on. I just feel like it's gonna go for a while. But
so really quick,
I might need to just kill my stream, so I might like disappear and come back because I need to kill on one side.
So to answer Destiny's question, I would definitely choose 12 girls over 12 weeks or whatever it is, like once a week. I acknowledge that could be a temperamental thing. Like right now I'm solo backpacking through Asia, so I love traveling. So I love like novel experiences. But I do think most guys, if they were honest with themselves, they would probably choose the 12 girls over 12 weeks. It's just a question of whether they're capable of doing that or not. So to back up a little bit, the entire reason we started talking about this in the first place is Kylo was kind of saying, okay, well, sort of more, what is it, like a monogamy normative society is probably better, which we kind of agreed with. But we were kind of saying that you can't be authentic in your monogamous relationships unless you know you have the capability of sleeping with a bunch of women. And otherwise, if you don't do that, it's kind of coke.
Yeah, and I feel like
a
big break up there. She was saying was basically like that you're preaching hookup for most guys, and that wouldn't make most guys happy. But if you get in a relationship and you don't have that hookup experience, you're not going to be happy. You're going to end up being curious and wanting to.
And neither is she. Neither is she.
Yo, because, the chat is literally fucking flipping the fuck out right now. So let me just address this. So there's this guy, I think Destiny and Kyla, you have no idea who he is. His name is Hormaxer. He is exactly what he sounds like. And he is very determined to talk to Destiny about Destiny's wife. Now, I know you said you're very tired, Destiny. God. So if you're not feeling it, we can do it another time. But I'll leave that choice to you because I know you said you only got 5 minutes.
If he wants to for like 5 or 10 minutes, I don't want to like take over the fucking show or anything. I don't want to like kill over everything.
If you're up for it, man, if you're cool with it, I'll drop him the link.
Yeah, if he wants to for a sec. I guess something when you guys talked about like seeing, like you can learn a lot sexually within one relationship.
Depending on who that's with.
Uh-huh.
Right. I mean, I was that fortunate, but it wasn't because you can learn a lot from one person. It was because that particular person.
Huh. That's not that practical though, too, because
it's not
more sexually experienced than you, and she's not really going to teach you. Majority of women, girls expect guys to come in with that sexual experience. That's not really practical.
No, I think it depends on the girls. There's a lot of girls that are like into that. Like,
right.
But it depends on the girl
and the circumstance. Because, like I was saying, I was fortunate enough to get that scenario, and that's because I was 17 and the chick was 19. And she came to teach. Like that's what she wanted to do. And it was a blessing to me that lasted a lifetime, because it advanced me so far beyond, which was interesting because all my boys were losing their virginity 14, 15. They had been with, several chicks or whatever, but just being with the one chick older than me, I knew more and understood more than all of them combined did. And I had only been with the one chick. So I agree with that. And then later in my life, when I got to like 26, 27, like between 25 and 27, I made it a point to pursue women in their 30s for the goal of learning. So that's how I would come into the relationship. Like, yo, you're a decade older than me, bitch, teach me. You know what I'm saying? So you can get it if you want it, if you look for it.
I learned a little bit from older chicks too, but back to Destiny's point though, I think the reality for most relationships, if you don't make a girl come probably off that first time, unless she sees you as extremely attractive,
there's no second time.
Going to cut you off. She's going to go away. So
I think that I super disagree. It's cool if you can get girls off. I like that kind of sex, but I think there are a lot of girls that fuck for different reasons besides coming too. There's a lot of girls that will fuck guys and go like, yeah, I think a lot of girls have a lot of really bad sex. Like what?
Unless she finds you extremely attractive too, there's other factors. I kind of see what you're saying, but I still stand with my point.
No, let me bridge the gap though.
I was gonna say, because sometimes if a girl wants to hold on to a guy, like she'll start fucking him or whatever, but she's not like looking for like the sex.
I was just about to say that. I wanted to bridge the gap by saying, hold on now, because you're both right. You're both right, and it's the reasoning and why she's sleeping with that guy in the first place. If that chick is hooking up with that guy because she likes him, she's attracted to him, it's a sexual thing. Prince is right. You disappointed. Now she's like, what a waste. Just like when guys have a big dick and they don't know how to use it, what a waste. When a guy's good looking or whatever and he's terrible in bed, the girl's like, well, fuck, what a waste. Because that's all they were in it for anyway.
If they're looking for like a friends with benefits and you suck at sex,
exactly. They weren't looking for you to pay their bills. They weren't looking for you to take them to the Beyonce concert. They just thought good looking guy, good sex. Finally, I can have sex with a guy where I'm actually going to be turned on and into it and enjoy it, because just like Destiny said, most of the time the sex is actually bad for women. Overwhelmingly, guys just don't know that. Now, the times when the chick would be dealing with the dude and the sex is subpar or trashed, it's because he's providing most likely a lifestyle, or maybe it's a status play. He's some type of come up. There might be some type of exchange that he does or doesn't know about. So that's where that takes place, and that's majority of the time. Majority of the time, we have sex is transactional.
We got Hormaxer here. All right, this is going to be fucking fascinating.
I heard he won the last speed date with Ashley, right?
He did win that one.
You can win these things?
Yeah.
Good evening.
There he is. Hormaxer, you're flaky as fuck, homie.
No, I had the text, but I should have thought it was for 10 o'clock. So I was streaming. I'm not flaky. I'm
making fun of the Hormaxers.
I tell you that. Yeah, I didn't want to because I didn't want to take away your stream or whatever you're talking about or bust his balls on Destiny. But people were telling me that because he's like, you're a political streamer, but you're into like the cuckold relationship. But see, I like those type of couples.
Wait, I don't do cuckold relationships.
Okay. Oh, you're not a hot wife couple?
No, we're an open couple.
Okay, so you don't watch or let it do. I said that you meet.
No, I don't watch anything. No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not as good. I was hoping that maybe I could wheedle my way in there somehow.
I mean, you're always free to hit her up if you think you got a shot, dude. Go for it.
Well, I don't know. What is it per take? And do you have to like clown around and do I have to dance around for a little bit? I mean, what do I do?
Do you talk to girls? Do you know how to fuck a girl? I don't know. You tell me. You're the Hormaxer, so you should know what you have to do.
Well, I'm trying to get away. That's what I'm trying to do. Honestly, I like people in like open relationships or hot wife
cheat
couples,
codes, man. No cheat codes.
Or hot wife
so are you
couples.
trying to date Destiny? Are you wanting to get in with Destiny or his wife?
Well, no. He was into watching. I've been into. I mean, I like the top 10% of trans porn stars. I don't find males attractive, but I like the trans, like Daisy Taylor. I'm into that. I bust her ass.
His ass?
Or his ass, yeah. But I'm very comfortable with myself, so.
We see that. Oh my God!
I didn't mean. What was your conversation going back to before I joined? I didn't mean to.
It was totally different. We were talking about like what's
sex and status, and like why men pursue sex.
Yeah. Well, I said if I had a little more
status.
Destiny's
wife?
Is it for status?
Yeah, exactly.
For me, well, I don't know. I figured because a lot of these, because I have a real teeny channel, and I said I think a lot of women, if I had more status and more porn, I think I would be able to have a lot more women accessible just from status and subscriber count. Definitely.
Yeah, that's probably true.
All right. Well, he just confirmed what I said. It's not the status you want, so you get it through sex. It's the sex you want, so you get it through status.
Well, but there's like another status that comes with sex too, right? Like if you're a guy and you could brag about a huge body count, that's true. Or if you've got like a lot of hot girls on you, like I think most other men will look at that as a form of validation, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to say this to Kayla a little bit earlier because she was mentioning that like, guys respect each other more, they give more props to the guy that's sleeping with more girls. But the way I see it or have experienced it, the guys that go out of their way to tell you, hey, listen, I hooked up with this really hot chick, let me show you. Those are usually the guys that aren't getting laid. They're not getting laid.
Well, yeah, but now you're kind of talking about it like a different thing, right? You're talking about like people that are
right?
Like there's a guy like making it up, and everybody knows that. There's a guy.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about making it up. What I'm saying is, she's okay. Okay, let me explain this better. She's talking about guys that are having casual sex, right? Follow me. She's talking about guys that are frequently having casual sex, different girls, multiple partners, right? You're following me so far. Then she's talking about the effect from your other pairs, from your friends, and the status and all this other type of shit that goes along with that. Here's the thing. Those are two completely different guys. The guys that do have those options and are doing that aren't the guys that are bragging to each other. They're not the guys that are like, hey,
that
check
might
out
be
these
true.
girls that are, they don't do that.
Yeah, that might be true.
They hang out with other guys that also get laid. They go out together. They separate because they get girls, so they go home with different girls, and they give each other the head nod. I'll see you later, bro. I'm gonna go with this one. All right, cool. See you later.
Sure, that might be the case, but like in general,
to it.
If it let's say that it leaked right now that like I had sex with the top 5 hottest women on Twitch. If that leaked right now, my status would be massively elevated. Or if there's a guy and it leaked.
But that's not why you did it, is my point. Her argument is that that's why guys are motivated to have this casual sex, is to increase their status. And it's like, no, that's just a side effect of it, or vice versa. They're able to have this casual sex because of their status. And maybe if certain people find out who can't do that, those people will feed into their status or feed into their glory or their popularity. But that person wouldn't care about those weak ass men's opinion anyway. I want about a bunch of nerds.
Just to clarify, could I just clarify my position? Because that's not quite what I was saying. What we were talking about specifically, young men, 17 to like 21. These men, in a large part, are absolutely pursuing sex, in large part for validation, which confers status. Because if they go from being a sexless virgin to a sex haver, that is a massive leap forward in status and validation. Because as you said when a guy hasn't had sex, there's this wiggling little whisper in his head that says, you're not even valid enough to procreate. Nobody thinks you're even worth having some future
happens if you're just looking for some
read with.
Right, but that's my point though, is what is the issue? The issue is not, oh, I have to get laid to get status. The issue is I have no fucking status. That's that guy's problem. That's what I was saying earlier when I was trying to say, if a guys are teasing a guy about being a virgin, his issue is not my friends are teasing me. His issue is I am actually a fucking virgin. Because if he wasn't a virgin, you know what good friends would do? They'd find something else to tease him about. That's how that works. I remember there was a time when I pretended to lose my virginity, and my boys were in the other room, and I wasn't fucking the girl. I was just fingering her, but I wanted them to think I was fucking her. So she started making noises, so I started making noises too, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
You look like a Mod Max Tyrone.
They all thought that I got laid that day, right? Follow me with the story.
You're like a Tyrone though down there. What do you do?
Give me a second, whoremonger. So they all thought that I got laid that day, right? But for weeks they teased me about the noise that I made when I was supposedly coming. So what I'm trying to say is that guys are going to tease each other about whatever the fuck we're going to tease each other about. We're not getting bent out of shape because we're teasing each other. We're getting bent out of shape if what we're being teased about is true, and that would be the issue. So, for example, I wasn't too beat up about them making fun of me because I knew that's not the sound I make when I come, because I didn't actually come. I just made that generic sound to convince them on the other side of the door. But if I hadn't convinced them that I lost my virginity, guess what they would have been making fun of me about? The fact that I didn't score.
Yeah, but I feel like I understand what you're saying. And maybe it might vary from community to community too, where some are going to be like really toxic regarding this and others aren't. But like, I mean, like, there's definitely the feeling that if you manage to fuck a really hot girl and you can go back to your boys and brag about it, like everybody's high-fiving you because of like what you've accomplished, right? Like that's definitely a feeling.
I'll even take
but that's not isolated to sex though. That's not isolated to sex. If I hit a home run, I want to tell all my boys that weren't there. If I score a touchdown, I want to tell all my boys that weren't there. Like, bro, you won't believe it. There was only 6 seconds on the clock, bro. This motherfucker threw the pass. I intercepted it. I ran it back. I hit the touchdown. What? So
yeah, but this is like, it's like the status and validation of like being good at sports, doing something awesome in a video game, fucking a really hot giro, right? It's all like kind of like the.
But I didn't score the touchdown for the status. I scored the touchdown because I wanted my team to win.
So what I said earlier about it being like suicides are complicated, like I understand what you're saying. You're not wrong. It feels like it's like the card on the horse, or no, it's not even the card. It's like a feedback. Yes. Yeah, it's like a thing that feeds into.
So I've been arguing the whole time that this has always been cyclical. You are scoring this touchdown to win because you enjoy the sport, but also if you're like an NBA player, for example, you're also scoring it for like status. You're also scoring it because you're kind of contractually obligated to be as good as you can, or you could lose your contract. Right? All these things are complicated. So obviously you're pursuing it for status.
It wasn't about status though. When he started playing ball, it was just for the love of the game. And that's the point I'm trying to make. When these younger guys, like you said, younger guys, when they're going out here trying to get laid, bro, it's not about that. It's just that they're new to the world, they're new to girls, they're new to sex, and they want to hook up. That's the main thing.
I'm 45 and I'm still trying to do the same thing. Is there something wrong with me?
They do want to hook up.
Let me ask a really clarifying question. This is interesting. I can see it going either way. I'm on the fence. Let's say that there's a girl that you've been seeing, okay? She's pretty attractive. She's not like a fucking uggo or anything. She's pretty attractive. You guys have really good sex. It's super fun. You have the opportunity on a Friday night to go see her. You're going to go out, have fun, go home and hook up with her. But there's a second chick who's also super hot. If you fucked her, it would be awesome. But now it's not guaranteed that like it's going to be a good time or whatever, but it'd be cool if you fuck her. All right? Now you could either see that second chick and kind of like stand up the first one, go see the second chick, or you can see the first one, is for sure. She's hot. You get along. It's awesome. You're going to have great sex. Now, let's say that you have the option. So that's the options in front of you, right? You can either
has to be one or the other.
Yeah. But here's the question. Would that decision change at all based on whether or not you could tell your friends? Or in one world, you can tell other people, and in the other world, nobody will ever know if you chose the second chick. Would that influence your decision at all?
I think it would, but not for the reason that you're thinking.
Okay.
So there was a saying that my cousin and me just got familiar with. He came up with it, and I let him influence me with it. And certain opportunities would come out, like they would come up, and I would pass. And my cousin said, "Bro, you got to stop doing shit like that." I said, "Why, motherfucker? I don't need to do that. I've been there, done that." He said, "Yeah, but you got to do it for the guys that can't." He said, "Next time that happens, do it for the motherfuckers like me that wish they could. I want to smell your finger." And I thought about that.
Talk about a cuckold related. It's a cuckold relationship there.
And I thought about that. It actually touched me because there are certain things that till this day I will do simply to represent and demonstrate for the guys that can't. You see what I mean? Like, even if I'm in a committed relationship, I will cold approach and get girls' numbers just to motivate the guys that I'm with. And I'll crumple it up and throw it away. You know what I'm saying? So there is a level of do it for the guys that can't. But is that chasing status? I don't think that's chasing status. I think that's just morale.
Well, but it's not about sex then at that point, right? It's about something meta.
Oh, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not. It's the morale of the fellas. But I understand what you're saying, that there are certain things that you want to be able to come back and tell your boys. But I think that's more just you want to share an experience. And notice I said my boys. It's not like I want to post that on Instagram and brag to strangers and try to get my clout up. I think there's a lot of that going on in this generation. This generation does way too much for clout.
Can I ask Kevin Ray Wilder a question? I think you're the same guy. I'm not sure though.
Sure.
Are you?
I want to answer Destiny's hypothetical in a second.
Yeah. Is this gonna derail?
Afterwards. Wait.
Okay.
You talk about smelling each other's fingers, but I wanted to derail.
Okay. So Destiny, I think in that situation, is there like would me telling my bros that, oh, I hooked up with this new chick, would that be a factor? Yes. But let's take a scenario where I couldn't do that. I would still probably choose the second girl.
Interesting. Okay. That's totally valid. You might. Yeah. I'm just curious what the thought process would be. Yeah. There was an opportunity I had when I was in my really early 20s there was a girl that I know would have been an awesome it would have been an amazing and awesome time. And then there was another girl that they worked in the adult film industry. And I ended up choosing the latter just because, like, damn, that's so awesome. And I super regret it because I know I would have had a better time with the first one. But I was young and stupid, and like the status of like, fuck, I want to fuck somebody in porn. That's so fucking cool. And I later realized, like, fuck, dude, the first experience.
Well, it's not necessarily just in a vacuum too, right? I mean, I think in the context of like, oh, well, if you see the second girl and you haven't seen her before, you can still probably see the first girl at a different time.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could, but like, it was one or the other. Actually, I hadn't seen the first girl at all either. But like, that's just the thing that I remember, because like for the first girl, there was no status involved. Nobody knew who the fuck she was. It was whatever. But on the second one, it would have been like, oh god, like this is such a cool thing. And yeah, I ended up going for the second because I was young. But looking back, I was like, fuck, it would have been way cooler to go for the other one. But yeah, I don't know.
Let me share a quick anecdotal story with you, and I think it will get my point across to Kyla what I'm trying to say about what comes first, this or that. And the fact that I do not believe that guys are doing this or motivated to do this or trying to have these casual things or actually having these casual things with the guys who can do it at will, I don't think it has anything to do with status. And I'm gonna give you an example from my experience that's similar to what you just said. There was a time when I went on tour, right? I got the opportunity to go and perform. It was the first time I ever went to Mexico. But the event was Sexpo Expo. So what they did, the promoters, they booked adult film stars. So there was like 9 female adult porn stars there. They booked some male porn stars, and then they booked some male dancers. So I was with the male dancers. And a few days before that, I had taken a cab home from the strip club. I got really drunk, took a cab home instead of driving, and I found a camera. I found a digital camera in the cab. And this dude just like toured, like he just went everywhere in the world and like hooked up with super hot chicks. It was crazy. And I had it all in the camera. And it's like I fell in love with this guy, and I never met him in my life. He had been with all these amazing women. He had it all documented in this camera, like in the Philippines, beautiful woman. Then he's in Australia, beautiful woman, right? So I had this camera with me. I went on this trip, and I met one of the porn stars, and I ended up hooking up with her. Mind you, I don't watch adult films. I don't watch porn, so I don't know who any of these chicks are. I recorded it with that camera. When I got back to Florida and I got to work around all my boys and all my coworkers, I was letting everybody have their way with the camera and look through the camera, right? And when they saw that porn star, everybody lost their shit. If I was to say the name, you guys would all know who I'm talking about. And I remember she was so arrogant about who she was, and my attitude was, listen, bitch, I don't know who the fuck you are. Her friend was like, you don't know who she is? I was like, I met her 3 seconds ago. Why would I know who she is? Oh, she's so-and-so. She's da-da-da. I was like, listen,
it better not be Lana Rhoades, man. Better not be Lana Rhoades. Don't
right. So I was like, listen, I don't watch porn, so I couldn't care less. That might have been what turned her on. That might have been what attracted her to me, was my attitude. But I told her to her face, I couldn't care less who you are, broad. I don't care. Right. But what I'm saying is all of my coworkers lost their shit when they saw who it was. And there was no, am I making it up? They saw it. I recorded it. Right. Everybody lost their shit. They were like, bro, you know how famous you would be if you released this tape? I had no intentions of any. I'm like, yo, give me back my damn camera, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, there was no pursuit of status.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So to summarize the difference between the points, I understand. I think you guys are both correct, just in different areas. So like, you're trying to say basically that like, let's say that you go out, you see this girl at a bar, and you fuck the hottest girl at the bar. You see her, you get her, and you're thinking in your head, like, dude, when I tell my friends about this is going to be fucking awesome. You see her, you fuck her, it's sick, and you tell them, but you didn't fuck the girl just because you wanted to tell your friends. Much like you don't hit the home run just because you want to tell your friends. You want to win the game. That's what you do. When you go to the girl, you talk to her, you hit her, you fuck her, and that's awesome because you wanted to fuck her. And yeah, you also share the experience, but sharing the experience with somebody doesn't mean this is your sole drive to do it. I can understand that. I think that is probably true for probably most men, depending on where you're at in life and the areas in life. But I think there is a pressure on the other end too, especially I heard Erudite mention, she brought up an age range of like 17 years old to 21 years old or whatever. When you've got guys that are in high school and there is like this pressure to lose your virginity, that doesn't feel like something where the guys are like, man, I just really want to have sex. I just want to have sex. You do, but it feels like there's a lot of external pressure there too. And I'm pretty sure this is like on every single family-friendly sitcom ever. There's always been an episode where the boy is sad because he doesn't have his first girlfriend yet. He hasn't had sex yet or whatever. And there is a drive to want it, but there's also a lot of external pressure pushing people towards it, such that you actually feel like a loser. And it's why there are insults. Like when people are calling you like a virgin and stuff like that as an insult, like it's not just because like, wow, you haven't gotten to experience something that's really great. It's like you're a virgin there because you're a loser, because no girl would ever want to fucking touch you, you fucking disgusting, right? Like that. I think that pressure probably plays a much bigger role for like adolescent men or very, very young 20s men if you haven't had sex yet. So like I can see the pressure end from that to where like you might just want to have sex just to fucking, so you can say like, no, I fucked a girl. I'm not a fucking virgin. I'm not an insult, really. Like I can see that being the case too. I guess it just
I agree.
We're going on for like 3 hours. I'm like, fucking, my eyes are killing me.
We agreed.
My deuces.
You know what? Ayendei agrees with my original premise.
No. I give Caleb.
Have a good night, guys.
If we're talking
Kyla,
about
it's Kyla, by the way. It's Kyla.
Kyla, sorry. If we're talking about that age bracket, then I would have to agree with you because
which I was.
I did it myself. Like I said, when I was that age, I lied to my friends on the other side of that door. I allowed them to think that I was.
Look at that.
From the beginning, I've been saying young men. But from the beginning, I've been saying young men and young women, just so that that's clear.
Sure. But then also you got to clarify too. There are people, guys also want to have sex because they do want to have sex. Like that's a drive too. Like it's not just
I've already, here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. I've already conceded all these points multiple times. I think sometimes, anyways, I'm glad that we've been able to agree that obviously these things are cyclical.
Kumbaya.
How do we agree on it in 5 seconds? It's been 3 hours.
Because Destiny is so
authentic. Alpha, what's your cycle, baby?
If I can be super petty and read a quote from the very beginning of this conversation, where my good friend, thank you for reviewing your Max, holy shit, where Ayendei said, you think you know men a hell of a lot better than you actually do. And I sense this from the first moment you started speaking. You're used to having like these weak dudes that tell you, yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And so basically what's happened is, I'm going to be honest, you guys were never really listening that closely to what I was saying.
No.
Like,
it's not
I'm
that.
not saying I've been perfect, but what premise you just agreed to right now is basically where we started.
No, but that's because you didn't specify who we're talking about. You were
I
saying
said young men and young women at least 20 times.
I don't know. When I was 16, I wasn't a young man yet, but I get what you're saying. But like I said, you have to specify who we're talking about. That's why I said we have to specify what's considered long-term relationship, just like we have to specify what age category of men or boys are we talking about, because again, it's different. And if we're talking about young guys, I still disagree with you. Young guys are not out here looking for these relationships. Later on, that might come, yes, but most young guys are not like trying to get this.
I never said they
girlfriend.
were. I already conceded that they were.
They're trying to get experience.
Can I just quickly comment on disappointment in Hormaxer's face when he realized that what he thought about Destiny's relationship wasn't true? He just looked like a cat.
Nice. Speaking of faces, good job, Alex.
I don't know. That's just bizarre. That's bizarre asking some dude about his wife. I would never do it. It's just weird.
Alex needs the Wi-Fi max.
True.
Yeah, I thought this was a good conversation. It's still, I wonder if somebody can do like a debate analysis or something, because I'm kind of confused of like where we started, where we ended up and stuff. I do think
it sounds
that,
like so I'm divining here because I don't fucking know, but it sounds like you guys started to get into a disagreement over what the main drives for sexual pursuits for men were. And it seems like Erudite is focusing the psychosocial side, where she's saying that like men are being driven towards sex for status, especially in the context of these red pill communities where it feels like sex and status are very closely intertwined. Like if I can drop a big body count or show you an IG where I've got a ton of hot girls on me, that's like a huge signifier for status for other guys. And it sounds like authentic. It sounds like you're talking more from the personal experience, or maybe from a more generalized experience of just kind of like guys in their like 20s, early 30s in general, where it's like, yeah, there is some status for sure, but that's not the drive to do it. Like even absent status, guys would still be pursuing sex. They'd still want to have sex. They might engage with it slightly differently, but they'd still want it. But it sounds like narrowing the age range, and then the specific part of the conversation you're talking about was the difficulty. But once you've already started like shouting at each other, everything kind of gets fucked. So
yeah, I think it started because I basically said I think prescribing casual sex for young men is like a problem because it's not actually making them happy. And like while I do think that they enjoy having sex, I think a lot of men would be happier if they just like actually like learn the values of like how to have a longer term relationship in general. Not even like marriage, just in general. I don't think selling casual sex. So it was the selling point, I think, was specifically where we like diverged.
Hold on.
That's where the
Who's
disagreement
prescribed?
is.
But I'm
prescribing
content now. It's okay.
Who's prescribing that?
All right.
One.
All right, it's gonna take too long if we go down that whole rabbit hole.
Let's,
Again, I think because we all agreed to
out.
this earlier when I said this, is that and correct me, Allende, Princeo, and Alex, if you disagree with this, but we think that I wrote it down a while ago. Men need to know that they're attractive to women in order to be authentic in their monogamous relationships. Otherwise, it's cope. So we think that all men, instead of just like trying to seek a monogamous relationship, they need to know that they can date casually first, so that they can be authentic in their relationships. So
wait, guys, no,
I think you got to be. I think you'd have to be really careful with that advice, because like, fuck.
All right, guys. I'm about to call it a night.
Oh, yeah. I would just say real quick, it would suck if a guy found a really awesome chick, because you can find like the one. It's rare that like 17, 18, 19, and you find her and you're like, I think I need to sleep around first, and then you lose that opportunity because you feel like you needed more experience, and like that actually would have been like the sixth chick. That would be really scary.
But yeah, I totally deny the concept of a soulmate. So
no, I'm not saying a soulmate, but like the first girlfriend I had in high school, my first serious relationship, I dated that chick for like 3 or 4 years, and that was probably by the end of that was some of the best sex I had in my life, and we were both virgins going into it. Like even still today, I hooked up with her like a year or two ago, and it was still like some of the best sex I've ever had in my fucking life. And that's somebody where like if beforehand, if I would have like tried to like, oh well, I need to sleep around first before we seriously did, I would have missed on that whole opportunity. But I
agree with that.
Before we hit the 3-hour mark, we're so close to it. So let's do a quick wrap up. Everyone, Destiny's channel, Princeo's channel, Authentic Alphas, Kevin Ray Wilder. Check out NotsoErudite. All right, awesome, great debate. Appreciate y'all. Thanks everyone for coming.